Hey, I'm Nashi.
I'm Solare.
And I'm Frosty. Welcome back to the Value Pack.
Hold on, I have to gear check Nash right now. Alright, that is some bull jabber. Dude, he CC'd me how to dance. What's happening? Wrestler!
People look at you like you're crazy, and they refuse to admit that it's pay to win, and just scream that it's pay to convenience! It's pay to convenience!
Big money, big money, big money, big money!
Oh shit, we got it! We fucking got it! And welcome everybody to another episode of the Value Pack. Listen, short show today. And the reason I'm saying that without any pre-existing qualifications is because Frosty has to leave in 2 hours. So it literally has to be a short show. We have no other option. Unless I guess we could do half the show, Reslar and Nyashi show, but then we have to change who's recording. That's a big mess. Nobody wants to do that. And I don't think anybody wants to watch that, frankly. Nobody tunes into the Reslar and Nyashi show. So we got to talk about class changes today. We got to talk about Frosty's letter to PA regarding the lack of balance changes, which came at a pretty ironic time. And we're going to talk a little bit about Arena Solare and what we think about so far. But first, before we get to any of that, got to thank our lovely, lovely patrons. Gramoth.com, Hawaiian, Laggy Skills, Melt on Your Mouth, Minaria, and No Name. Thank you guys so much for supporting the show and everybody who supports us on our Twitch streams as well, which you could find in the description down below. Gamers, hello.
Yo.
What's up, man?
What up?
I still haven't grinded Calpheon Elvia.
Yeah, no, you'd probably die.
Probably.
Now you wouldn't die. You wouldn't die in the first 3 spots. You would only really die at the last 2.
2 spots, yeah. Hex and whatchamacallit. I still die at Hex. I just died a moment ago, but that was just because I wasn't paying attention to my inventory while I was talking with you guys and talking with chat. So that was my fault.
Did you lose anything?
Bond special evasion, but I already made one earlier, so it's not a big deal.
Yeah, we have an audio debate in chat, and someone's confusing. I don't like with blank isn't good. By the way, I want to talk about something that's not BDO related real quick. That's also not audio related. Something actually interesting.
Okay.
Stranger Things season 4 is freaking epic. I finished it last night, and I think it is my favorite season. Better even than season 1.
Wow.
Really?
I'll watch it then.
I actually think so.
I've been holding out on watching it for some reason. I don't know. I don't know. The last season was kind of like meh to me.
Season 3 was okay. Season 2 I thought was bad. Season 1 was great, and season 4 was absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
And so they divided the first half. I don't know if half is the right word, but there were only like 7 episodes, and then they released the last 2 a month later. But the last 2 are super long. I was kind of surprised. It was like the second to last episode was an hour and a half, and then the last episode was 2 hours and 30 minutes. Like a whole movie.
Shit.
But it was epic, dude. Yeah, no spoilers. I promise no spoilers. But it was super epic. I very, very much enjoyed it. And I don't know. It was like, dude, I like don't want to stop watching. I hated that it was a month between the 2 parts.
Yeah, because now you have to wait an entire year or 2.
Yeah.
No. It concluded already. So the first part was in June. The second part was in July.
Oh, so that's the finale.
Season 5.
Yeah, exactly.
Wait, are they making another season or not?
I think. I actually don't know. I haven't looked into it. Maybe.
Oh, fair enough. I think I stopped watching in season 2 because I remember I was like, all right, season 1's pretty good, and then I remember not really caring for season 2, and so I just kind of stopped watching.
Season 2 was really bad.
Yeah, I don't know. I just remember being a little disappointed because it just felt a lot worse than season 1. So then season 3 came out and I didn't bother, and I didn't bother season 4 either, obviously. So maybe I need to catch up.
Yeah. Anyway, super good. Highly recommend. Also, very much enjoyed Umbrella Academy season 3.
I thought that one was gonna be kind of like weird because I don't know, the last season was also kind of like meh for
I liked season 3 very much.
I'll have to check it out.
Yep. All right, so
Oh, good. Me and the wife have been in a show hole, so been watching some weird fucking like drama shows, and I just don't want to watch those at
your
all.
wife put you in a shoe hole.
She puts me in a shoe hole.
Yeah, there's a lot of good shows. I mean, there's a million shows. I don't know. We've been on this kick of watching like all this murder mystery crap as well. That is addicting, and we can't stop watching. All right. Anyway, on to things. I wrote a letter to Pearl Abyss. Nyashi didn't have a chance to even glance at it. Rez, did you by chance?
I did, yeah.
Your
I
letter.
read through.
I read through your letter.
Oh, didn't
I'm
you say
sorry,
it right at
I-
the start of
I'm-
the show that you did not?
I thought you were talking about like a letter from the Global Lab notes, like from like a Blue Note or something.
No.
I misunderstood.
They stopped talking to us a long time ago, Nyashi.
Yeah, sure. Sure. No,
Um,
I read yours. Yes, I did read yours.
Okay, so the TLDR on it is basically me whining and complaining that there's not balance changes being done, which is odd because this week on Global Labs there were some balance changes, which was very rare and surprising.
To be fair, you released your thing before they did that, so
I did.
they're literally just throwing dirt in your eye right there.
They're
No,
like,
there's no way that was they had that coming.
They're
down the
like,
pipe
hold
for a
on, we
minute.
got these on standby. Let's wait for someone to bitch about something, and then we'll throw these in.
yeah, but
the fucking conspiracy.
it's got a crazy because you know how Reddit is in BDO. It's mostly people are
Anger.
there to be angry and to hate not only everything BDO and Pearl Abyss does, but also everything everyone else in there does. They hate everything, except for artwork, especially if it's scantily clad.
The way to put it.
But it had a pretty crazy response, I think. It had, I mean, it has like whatever 1,000 upvotes, like 350 comments or something like that. So there were a lot of people that read it and a lot of people that left really interesting comments and feedback, and a lot of people that left some really funny stuff. One guy said that I was trying to be a Baldo Asmongold.
Interesting.
Which is interesting, seeing as, you know, he's sort of going through the same thing as me, you know? We're sort of both Baldo Asmongoldos, all right? But it was fun. It was cool. It was cool to see the interaction. But at the end of the day, the point of the entire post, because I don't want to read the whole thing because it's very, very long. But the point of the whole thing was really just to say that there should be someone that works over there that cares about balance and makes changes regularly. There should be a team or a group of people that are constantly looking at feedback and looking at any information they have and grind spots and you know, whatever information they can get, Node Wars, Open World, Solare, etc., and make tweaks. They don't always have to be big tweaks. In fact, most of the time they should be smaller. But some of the things have just been left for so long or not addressed, even through the reworks, that it's like, I think a lot of people are really frustrated. And one of the things I pointed out, and I tried not to make the post about Kuno, but the thing is that Awaken Kuno is just such a good example because I've been playing since 2017, and outside of the pirate grind and Gahas, where everything died essentially in one skill anyway, so kind of everything worked on every class as long as you can move from pack to pack. Like ever since the Histria era and beyond, like Kuno has been so bad in PvE, and for whatever reason, it's just they've made some changes, but it's
Fall short.
yeah, it's like the effort has never really been there where it's like, dude, like actually stop and analyze what's wrong and stop giving a 10% PvE buff to Spin Spree every 6 months because that's not fixing anything, you know.
Mhm.
Anyway,
Kind of like willy-nilly with the changes sometimes.
yeah,
Sometimes, not all the time.
And,
Sometimes they hit the mark, but
some
it's usually
classes-
few and far between.
they're really thoughtful. Like Striker was the same way for a couple years, if people remember. Once we graduated out of the Gaha's pirate era, Striker was like, well, you kind of do okay at Ackman, and then you're pretty shitty everywhere else. And then they made massive changes to Striker. Well, Succession obviously made a big difference, but then they buffed Awakening independently last year, at the beginning of last year, and it made a huge difference in their PV. And I just wish they would do that for every class. There's so many classes that are behind. And I don't know, this week's balance changes are still kind of a... I mean, they show that. So, for example, Suck Sage got some changes and in PvP, and I don't think all of them are perfect changes or exactly what sages were asking for. We'll get to it in detail in a bit, but they also didn't address any of the PvE. And Succession Sage got nerfed in PvE twice, by the way. The first time when it was arguably one of the best classes, but not definitively one of the best classes, when they originally nerfed the critical hit rate on Form Shift, and then during the reworks, when they buffed everyone, including the classes that were already better than Suck Sage, they nerfed Suck Sage even more by just rolling off damage on like 6 abilities. And they just never reverted that. Like Suck Sage is just way behind top end grinding now, and for absolutely no reason. So
it seems like, yeah, it just like they finally answered the complaints about the grind, but they didn't consider like their direction with the rest of the classes with the reworks. It's weird. It's like there was a disconnect for like two different teams working on things, kind of thing.
yeah,
That's what it kind of looked like to me. Like there was a balance team, and then there was like the separate project rework team. Then they were all doing their own independent things. And since Sage wasn't really touched with reworks, they, like you said, got left behind. That's what it looks like to
No,
me.
well,
Like a silo type situation. Like at my company, unfortunately, we have to deal with that sometimes. We have departments that are like siloed off, and we don't communicate very well.
yeah. Well, it wasn't untouched. It was actually nerfed at the exact same time. So, like, if you go back to the,
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. But it wasn't nerfed. It wasn't nerfed a little bit. It was like,
yeah, it was significant.
yeah. And the thing is that was so crazy is during the global labs, they had mentioned multiple times, like a bunch of times, they had mentioned that their plan was to bring other classes up. To their two examples were Awaken Nova, and I can't remember if they said specifically Succession or just Sage in general, but those were their two class examples. So it's very odd that they ended up buffing Awaken Nova, which already was better than Suck Sage at the time, and nerfing Sage, and not bringing everyone up to either the levels that those were at prior. Some people got brought up, but not everyone.
Yeah. It's just weird. Like I said, it kind of to me looks like two different teams were working on two different projects.
Chad says someone at PA got bodied by a Suck Sage and he works on the balance team.
True.
I love the idea that like just one bad experience, because you know how people rage and they end up hating people or a class forever just based off one thing that happened. So I actually
experience.
Yeah, I actually could see it realistically happening. It's kind of funny.
They got Zerker like grabs him on the edge of like Stars in and throws him off the cliff. Fucking hate this class.
Yeah. So I actually wanted to hear from both of you guys, because I actually didn't really get. I don't think I saw too much, but what did you guys think of the letter? Or just the general message that it's trying to send?
I thought it was pretty, well documented, for the things you knew about the classes that you obviously talked about basically every class. So, I mean, I didn't really see any complaints from my class's point of view, and I thought your take on the Musa was fine. I mean, I'm sure the Musas didn't really appreciate it, but you know,
I honestly,
they know the love. They know the love-hate relationship between you and them. So
I didn't get much hate from them. I got hate.
Yeah.
The most hate I got was from
Seem
Suck
much.
DK, because apparently a lot of Suck DKs think that they're actually a very, very weak class. And
Yeah, right.
I'm trying to think.
seeing
if there was-
your messages, it's crazy.
And then mostly it was just disagreements, like individually, right? Because people want to address their problems differently. So not necessarily like crazy, like, oh, I disagree that it should be changed, but just if I were to do it, I would do this kind of thing, you know? There were definitely some reasonable takes. There was some really cool stuff I learned, like Awakened Warrior is actually one of the easiest classes to fight against. I learned that.
Apparently.
I learned that Draconia is arguably the most balanced class design we've ever actually seen in this game. That was another comment I saw.
That's a nice take.
Um,
Got a fucking delusion are they in?
yeah, because I mentioned the Zerker grab fails, and I had someone actually commented, like, Rez, you know about the Zerker grab fail stuff, right? Like, it's prior to the reworks, grabs were fully protected, so on the grab fail, it was like a lingering SA for you guys. It was like a positive thing, and now that animation is still there, but you're not protected, so you're just stuck and vulnerable for extra long, a lot longer than many, many other classes, if not every other class, after a failed grab, which I am more just thinking, I mean, first of all, the grab attempts are already unprotected, and on top of that, some of the grab fails are a little bit too fast, I would argue, but some of them are also too slow. There should be like a middle ground. And someone said, I'm sorry, I just can't support someone who thinks they should be buffing grabs. And I was like, I think you're missing.
Sounds like a Musa.
I think you're missing the point. So bad. It was just so. I was like, oh god. Yeah, no, Musa. I actually have heard from multiple Musas, they still think Chase shouldn't be affected by slows. So that's
Weren't the Musas the one that
It's
had
funny
that
since
change
they're the ones
reverted?
that fucking screwed us.
Yeah. Musas
Yeah.
were the ones that were crying whenever they made that change. They were like, oh, no, we don't want it.
That is an interesting Musa accent. I usually go with the 1920s gangster thing, but that one works too.
Because they're fucking
They
crying.
were
all the
crying
goddamn
like
time.
this. They were like, it's not fair. It's simply not fair. Yeah, they were complaining that the E-buff move speed didn't affect their chase. And they're like, oh, you're right. Let's
And
roll this
speed
back.
Spell. We
Yeah,
want
speed
to
spell.
be
Speed spell was
affected
the
by
other one.
speed spell.
Yeah. It was kind of fun.
Now, to be fair,
Yeah.
to be fair, when they pop their fucking E-buff now, like, it's just so intimidating when they're coming at you. Like, I have the same effect on my E-buff for Mewa, but it's like it's not in the same ballpark as how intimidating that can be when you have a Musa running you down compared to like a Mewa.
Yeah.
You have to be very careful because of how their kit is. You can get caught so easily if you're not careful.
Musas were mostly reasonable, to be honest. As surprising as that may sound.
It's actually surprising.
Yeah, I don't know. To be honest, everyone was mostly like overwhelmingly supportive, especially the people that weren't super hung up on the individual class write-ups, but more so just the message in general. Like, you know, there's just a lot of people that are like, look, I don't agree with everything you wrote here, but it would be
the
so
sentiment
nice.
is there. Like,
Yeah, it would be so nice if they
Yeah.
did just. And I can't for the life of me figure out why you wouldn't. And I know there's a lot of people that make the argument that, oh, meta generates money. And it's like, well, if that's the case, then change the meta regularly. That's like literally what we're asking for. Just don't let it fester as one meta for 2 years or a year or even 6 months. Like that, the game time is so long. It's not like this is the workplace for like 99.5% of people are just playing the game. It's not their workplace. It's not. So when you leave something for 2 years, like people don't play the game that long. So if something sucks for 2 years and that's the only thing they like or want to like, for example, if someone mains shy or tamer for 2 years, and you're not going to convince them to try something else, then eventually they're just going to leave. You know? I don't know. I just find it odd to leave. And then the thing is that really just pisses me off the most is the PvE, because while there are a lot of variables, some of the PvE stuff is just so blatantly obvious.
Obvious and like low hanging fruit that they could adjust. Yeah.
It's so obvious, dude. It's actually wild. It blows my mind.
Well, I think a lot of like because some things that they could potentially do to fix certain classes PvE has such great impact on PvP, such as like say cooldown reductions.
Hmm?
Like for example, like Suck Kuno beyond the stamina, right? One of
Yeah.
the big reasons why it was so strong was you guys' cooldown rotation was so fucking short after the rework, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that was a big part of it. That helped out your grind speed, but obviously Kuno's still lacking significantly. And then, you know, they nerfed the stamina pretty heavily on you guys. I don't remember if they really touched your guys' cooldowns, but I think they pretty much left them the same, right?
So what?
But I mean those I was just going over just some examples of that. But
Yeah.
basically, like you know, they have to be careful with some things, obviously, because it could
Right.
have great impact on PvP. But they're a little bit too fucking scared to,
Dude.
I think, or do something to like balance out PvE. I just don't know what the big deal is. Like, why is it so difficult? They can adjust numbers all the time, but they can't do that strictly for PvE to get everything right.
Well, here's the thing that drives me nuts about it, because almost every class has one of these skills that really wouldn't be impacted in PvP at all if they just made these skills good. All right, so I'm going to give you these examples. They keep giving these to every class, but not making them hit hard in PvE, which is just seems like the most obvious and easy thing to do. All right, one of them, we'll start with Meiwa, Tenacious Edge. Why can't that skill hit hard in PvE? Why does it have to be completely and utterly useless? SLMB.
It's really it's a skill that's been literally underutilized
Forever.
and yeah.
Touch of Exploitation, the exact same SLMB, just do a few hits. Why does that skill not hit hard enough in PvE? Sosprey Sonin on Kuno, exact same thing. SLMB, why doesn't that hit hard in PvE? On Corsair has the same thing with their SLMB. I'm forgetting the name off the top of my head. Is it this one? Where is it? What's the name of this thing? Tidal Slash. It's literally just you hold SLMB and it deals some damage. Why can't that hit hard in PvE? Like all of these really Awakened Corsair is the same thing. SLMB. Why can't Dead Hunt on Awakened Sork? Like these very, very simple or forward now Claws of Darkness on Succession Sork. Like just skills like that where it's like this is so obvious. You don't have to change how it functions. Just make it deal PvE damage. Like really high PvE damage.
What would be the answer for Suck in that respect? Because those are obviously mostly Awaken-oriented skills, right? So,
well, in a lot of cases, the Suck counterpart is better, at least in half of those examples. But
yeah,
I'm just saying, if you already have that skill in place, like how can you not just be like, oh, maybe this skill should hit hard since it doesn't really affect PvP at all?
Yeah.
It just seems odd to me. I think it's so strange to just have that. And SLMB's like, I know it sounds crazy because I've had a bunch of hand issues, and SLMB is one of the most comfortable keybinds I feel like for grinding. So if you have to go back to SLMB like pretty often, I feel like it's fairly easy versus shift abilities, you know?
Yeah.
Or just repositioning your hand over and over and again. Your hand's kind of resting on W and S pretty regularly, and obviously your hand's on the mouse. So I don't know. It's just weird. There's just so many really easy skills. Obviously, not every class has one of those, but the ones that do, it's like that's an obvious, very, very obvious and simple change that wouldn't affect PvP.
Like Tenacious Edge as the example used for Meiwa, like that skill used to have a foreguard and used to stiff, so it would be something that was utilized for PvP somewhat, but not really. Way back in the day, like 2017 kind of situation. But yeah, ever since they removed the foreground on it, it's never been touched ever again. And it just doesn't do any damage in PvE. So yeah, that's definitely a skill they could repurpose
Yeah,
for grinding.
let me
So-
read Tenacious Edge's sick PvE damage numbers. You ready?
Right.
1175 times 3 max 2 hits.
Jesus. Yeah. That skill literally has not been looked at since 2018 or whenever they did the CC change and SA forward guard changes. That literally has not been looked at since then.
Yeah. Dude, and then they did this thing on the Kuno one, on Sauce Persona, which is again the same keybind, where they buffed the damage a little bit and made only the last hit have a bigger AoE. So it's like the first few hits don't hit any more than one mob or two mobs that are directly on top of you, and then the rest of the pack is only hit by the last hit. So it distributes its damage like unevenly and leaves some of the mobs with higher HP. And it also just doesn't really do good damage. So it's, I don't know, it's just very odd.
That's a good take, though. And PvE, like you said, it's kind of unacceptable that they haven't figured that out by now.
Yeah.
Like they've had years to balance out PvE. Like, and I know they constantly add in new content. They could constantly scale up content. More gear is required, but it's like at a certain point, like
Does Awaken Circuit have one of these? Blasting. How good is blasting in PvE, Reslar?
I don't grind in Awakening, so I don't know. But I don't think it's very good. I think the main reason people use it for is, if I remember correctly, it's a tier 3 add-on. So people use it to get their monster damage buff up real quick before they do their actual DPS combo. I think that information might be outdated, but I'm pretty sure that's how it works.
Yeah.
Someone please let me know if I'm incorrect. I haven't grinded in Awakening in 20 years.
Anyway, I don't know. It feels like there's some low-hanging easy fruit, and that's kind of the point with a lot of this stuff. And even in some of the PvP stuff, like we talked about a million times, and now I don't even know if you could add it to this kit. We'll talk about it, but like prior to what we saw in Global Labs, Sleet Step iframe seems so obvious. Like this stamina.
Well, we've only
issues.
been screaming for it forever.
Yeah.
But yeah.
The stamina issues some classes have are blatantly obvious, especially class like Suck Meiwa. It's just weird, and it's never going to be addressed. There has to be like a happy medium between your class doesn't use stamina at all, and by the way, if you use any abilities, you're done in 7 seconds. There's got to be a middle ground that I think a lot of these classes would fit into pretty well, instead of the one end of the spectrum is Suck Zerker and the other end is Suck Meiwa. You know what I mean?
It's like for a while I was thinking that they just wanted Suck Meiwa to be the PvE kit because they just weren't buffing it and they were just constantly buffing Awakening. But as Awakening was getting more and more buffs, it starts getting closer and closer to what Suck can do. Obviously, Suck's still stronger.
Yeah. All right, so that's that. Rez, did you have any thoughts on the letter in general?
Yeah. Hold on. I've been working on something. I'm just about finished.
Okay.
All right, and done. Alrighty, Mr. Frosty, you think you're so smart, huh? You think you speak for all of us when you talk about these class changes. I'm gonna try and channel some real Reddit energy right now.
Okay.
I can see through your lies and your obvious Kuno bias, your anti-Musa ways, your propaganda, and I won't allow it to go one step further. I decided.
You sound like the most recent Batman movie. You sound like the Riddler.
Do I?
You do.
Oh,
I
actually, a little bit.
actually haven't seen the Batman.
It's pretty good.
Okay, so what I decided to do is I went through your letter to PA and I decided to look at how many words you wrote down for each and every single class.
Ooh, okay, I like this.
So, obviously, what this means, obviously, there's
Mhm.
no question about it, is that the classes with the least words written,
Wait, did you
you
count?
believe
Did you count
to be
them?
the most balanced. That's
you-
obviously what it means.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yeah, shy, like shy.
the number one class,
Shy.
the number one class that you wrote the most words for
Okay.
was unsurprisingly Kuno.
Uh-huh.
At a staggering 495 words. Now, as we all know, Succession Kuno is by far the most oppressive class in the game right now.
Yeah.
The mobility is insane, the damage is way too high, and they make too much money in PvE as well.
True.
Why do you think Kuno has to have the most changes? Can you explain that, sir?
I don't actually. It's a disparity between writing down individual things that I thought about versus like just naming the problems and not feeling confident about specific adjustments. So, for example, Warrior, right? Like Warrior has they don't ever run out of stamina, right?
Yep.
But I didn't feel confident in saying what specifically should cost stamina or not cost stamina or lock stamina or whatever. So I didn't put it.
Yep.
If I
And
didn't
that-
feel confident in putting something, I wasn't just going to throw some random crap in there.
And that was very clearly reflected
Hmm.
in that you only wrote down a measly 73 words for Warrior. 50 less words than the next lowest class.
How many did I write down for shy?
Well, hold on. We need to address this one at a time. So
Okay.
that obviously implies that you believe Warrior is a very balanced class and does not require changes. Is that correct?
Based on the information in the post, yes. Apparently. I can't. It's hard to argue with. You got me there. I feel like just shutting down.
All right.
Objection.
What'd you say, Shy?
Hearsay. Yeah. Yeah. Shy. How
Shy-
many words were there for shy?
So Shy came in 22nd place with 129 words.
Okay, so Shy is a great example because for Shy, I said there are mountains and mountains of feedback sent in from good people like Wutaru, Dreadsparks, and many others that have asked PA to do something to address this class's problems. Their defensive stats are pitiful. They don't have an S block. When trying to move around the battlefield, it's completely unsafe. They are flopping around like a fish. As a support, you could argue casters do a better job with a lot less effort. If Shy is truly supposed to be a support class, do something to make Shys feel good about playing support with this class. Shy PV is quite good at high-end spots, could use improvement at lower-end pack-to-pack spots like Stars and Thornwood, etc. So,
Yeah.
while it
Skateboard
is...
or a snowboard or whatever the fuck that thing is.
Are
It
you
should
just,
feel good.
are you just naming things and saying you like them, Brick?
Alligators, pepperoni.
Skateboard skill! Snowboard skill or something!
I forget what the fuck it was.
Are you just looking at things and seeing you like them?
I'll take microtransmitters.
You know, it's funny. It's funny you did that because me and the wife actually watched that movie recently. It's pretty funny.
Okay, so real quick, rapid fire.
Yeah.
I think that this could be a fun little game. Frosty, you're the one who wrote up the post. Let's see how well you know this post. So I said Kuno came in first with 495 words. What
Okay.
came in second?
Can I scroll through to glance or no?
Yeah, you can glance if you want.
Okay.
But
I would guess, if I had to guess off the top of my head, I'd probably say Mystic.
incorrect.
Oh.
Number 2
Oh.
is Sage with 448 words.
Really? Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Number 3, what do you think number 3 is?
I'm gonna go Mystic.
I'm going to go and let you know Mystic is not anywhere near
Is
the
it
top
not?
5. Guardian,
Okay.
it comes in at number 3 with
Ah,
425
Oh,
words.
okay. All right.
Number 4,
Hashashin.
no, Corsair with 416.
God damn it.
Although
You really do
Hash
have an
is,
obsession with Corsair.
I like
Hash
Corsair.
is close by. Hash is close by. Number 5. This might be a little complicated. I'm gonna give you number 5 because it might be confusing if you don't know what I did. So number 5 is Wiz at 409, and the reason why I didn't want to make you guess is because I added in the separate paragraph you
Okay,
put for
that's
both
for
Witch
both.
and Wizard into both Witch and Wizard's word count.
Dude, you
You're
want to
really
know something
basically the same
crazy?
class.
Because
Say
I
what
know
now?
you want to know something because you remember the elephant in the room post made a lot of wizards hate me.
Yeah.
This one, I have not heard much hatred. Isn't
Interesting.
that crazy?
Yeah.
Oh, they realized their class is actually balanced, or they re-rolled off the OP class and went to their own respective classes now, like Drake.
Number 6 is Hash with 397. Number 7, what do you think number 7 is?
You said hash was what?
6 at 397.
So 7 would be missed.
7 is Tamer with 379. Number 8, what do you think 8 is?
Oh my god,
so.
I'm running out of. Oh, no. Ranger.
Archer.
Witch with 370.
Shit.
Number 9 with 324. What do you think? What's 324?
That's now we're at Mystic.
Nova.
I'm gonna get Mystic eventually.
Number 10 at 318.
That actually sounds like Mystic.
Musa.
This poor guy. You're like
Number
the
11
gambler.
at
You're like the gambler. Like
309.
it's gotta go sometimes.
Number 11 at 309.
Striker.
Ranger. Number 12 at 299.
I give up. Do we have to go through all of them?
Come on. You can do
Lon.
it. No. It's
Mystic.
The one. Yeah, it's Mystic. I just wanted to get to Mystic. So then it goes Sork, Striker, Lon, Ninja, Zerker, Maywa, Drac, Valk, DK, Shy, and Archer is actually 29. She had 126 words. And then Warrior at the very bottom with a measly 73 words.
Yeah. Okay. I don't think that it relates to. Okay, here was the problem with Kuno. I did make a mistake on Kuno, and I regret it. Is addressing the ebuff because there are a lot of ebuffs that are not good or potentially too strong. So yeah.
Yeah, you blew everything out of the water with Kuno. It had almost 50 more words than Sage, second place.
Yeah. I'm surprised.
And it's almost like you mained the class.
I'm surprised Sage was second though.
I'm surprised you thought Mystic was so high when you only wrote 299 words for it.
You know what it is? It's because I felt pretty good about everything I said about Awakening, but then I didn't really add like a lot of details to Succession because Succession is already pretty strong. It only has like minor annoyances versus like actual problems, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
Also, interestingly, so Zerker has 197 and Maywall has 196. So
yeah, Maywa, dude,
your feelings towards those two classes are comparable, I suppose.
So I had mentioned that I went through and asked a few people from every class some opinions on stuff, and I was reluctant to ask Nayashe because what usually happens is like,
my God, you know, it's funny you say that, but yet when you guys originally had me on as a guest, you thought my opinions on things were, you know, fairly objective for being
it was
based on a class that was my own. So
well, no, it's not. It's
but
not
then
the
you
objective.
stopped playing the game for a year to go play New World, and now you're out
for
of touch.
a year. No, not. It's not that it's not objective, Nayashe, or although it's not. But that's not the reason why I was hesitant. It was more hesitant because it's like it goes from like, hey, what are a few things that would help this class to like, here's a long list that would make this class the perfect class, the most perfect class you've ever seen in the history of the game.
I don't do that. You know I don't do that.
I
literally like what you got as an answer would have been the exact same thing I would have given you, because that's the same thing I communicate with all the other Mewas in the fucking community that fucking complain about certain things in the kit. It's always the iframe, the stamina, especially for suck, and usually minor like bug issues, like fucking charged stub arrow not transversing like terrain properly. It's weird, and like there are other small bugs, but that's like those are minor in comparison. It's always
So
been the stamina issues and the iframe.
let's compare our responses. So you asked us at the same time, would you say that this is fair, linking us your post that you put for Zerker and Maywall respectively. And I said, yeah, that sums up the biggest issues pretty reasonably. I also feel like protected damage on combo damage is a problem. Likewise, Ancient Wave CC, just make it fully protected. And then you mentioned the grab thing, and I said, yeah, right now you have to cancel a grab animation. Only works with E-grab, cancels unprotected. It's just movement, which is technically a false statement. It's protected off cooldown, but that iframe doesn't fucking work, my guy. And then I said, also conjointly, please for the love of God, just be iframe off of takeoff. Nyashi, on the other hand, went on this tirade of comparing Meiwa to Musa.
Yeah, I want the whole Musa community to know that Nyashi hates Musas and makes it very clear.
I hate Musas at all. I just think it's bullshit that they can fucking sit there and complain.
Oh, they can complain. Sorks always complain too, so everyone's game to
like,
complain.
Meiwa's
right?
always been on the fucking shit end of the stick when it comes to fucking busts between Meiwa and Musa. So it's
Yeah.
kind of just silly whenever I see them complain. I don't hate Musa.
You just hate the people that play them. So
That's probably more accurate, yeah.
anyway, at the end of the day, should we get balance? Like, what would be what would be a regular schedule of balance changes, big or small, that would be appropriate in your opinion? Like, where it's like, okay, we shouldn't complain about getting balance changes because we do get them regularly. Like, how often should a class be tweaked?
Okay, so first of all, let me state this is coming from a player. I don't know how these things are done. I've never been in a position where I've had to balance a video game. But in my head, my thought process is you have a balance team of, I mean, at least as many people as there are classes. And that way you can have, at least at a minimum, you can have one person kind of trying to pay attention to what people are saying about one class. And then they all come together to talk about, essentially what needs to happen. And then maybe you do, I would put it on like a schedule, in all honesty. I would put it on a schedule of, say, like, I don't know, like a couple classes every week. So that way it's like, all right, like what are the changes that like you think would be good? Let's like talk about it and figure it out. And then there's a set amount of time you have to kind of figure out and gauge what people are kind of thinking about for each individual class, essentially.
Like a costume task force almost.
Yeah, sure, but I don't think that's how the costume task force works either. I think that's just like two guys doing the best they can to recycle old costumes with a couple new assets.
It's difficult.
Yeah.
Takes
But
a
like
while.
in terms of the release schedule, like yeah, it would be very similar to how the costumes are released, where like every week, like 1 to 2, maybe 3 classes get changes, and so it's like a regularly scheduled thing that like this balance team has to work around, right? So they're like the one guy that's quote in charge of Kuno kind of like goes into streams, goes into the forums, goes into Reddit, talks to players, gathers like data on how the players are feeling about the class, and then he comes to the entire like balance team with some proposed changes that he thinks might be helpful. They kind of like hash it out a little bit, and then whenever the time comes, they release what they think would be most helpful, essentially. And then he has however many weeks for the next like go around on Kuno to like keep gathering information, see how the changes have affected, see what players are talking about it, see what changes are happening to other classes that maybe affect that class, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it just becomes a regularly scheduled thing.
I mean, I think, yeah, it's so people are looking at it like it would be just overpowered. I don't think it'd be separated either. I don't think you could have one person per class. Also, I doubt they'd ever hire that many people, but I think you could have a team, like a group of people, like, hey, you 5 to 10 people are just comb through all the classes regularly and see like what's going on, what's good, what's bad, what's weak, what's working, what's not. Like what if something is dealing too much damage, find out why it's doing too much damage. Is it because of gear scaling? Is it because the skill itself is too strong? Is it because like there should be people that are just constantly working on that. And my thing is like I wish they didn't have to wait until they have like massive changes for every class and every spec before they release notes.
Changes the
Yeah.
evaluation completely.
Yeah, it's like because then it's like, well, now we have no compare and contrast because too many things changed at one time. Like it's obviously it feels nice right now, like when it does happen, it feels nice in a way because everyone has waited so long
Fresh.
to get changes. But if for example on the first week of July, Ranger got some balance changes, and then on the second week of July, Sork got some balance changes, and then on the third week of July, Striker did, and so on and so forth, then I don't think people would care as much or be like, oh, well, I didn't get anything. It's like, yeah, but you would know, like, all right, well, eventually it's going to get to my class. Hopefully the changes are good, you know, and it constantly rotates around, so.
Now, what's my question for you, Frosty, is in regards to your question around what you think a respectable time frame is. What do you perceive their particular turnaround time on an update is right now? Do you think it's like a 3-month or 6-month type situation?
Well, I thought it was a really long time, but then I saw the way class reworks went, and it was like, dude, when they want to make changes, like they make dramatic changes in just 7 days. Like dramatic changes. Do you remember when they had like every single class getting massive changes every single week? It was like some of them were actually, so for example, near the end, right before, remember Suck Kuno was like, this rework's kind of weird. The only thing that really changed is they removed the teleport on Tenon Cutter and Flash Slash could move you. Those were the changes. That was it. And then it kind of just sat there festering, and there was just minor changes here and there, and then one week it was like, oh, by the way, we lowered the cooldown on this, and this. We buffed the damage on this, and gave you the teleport on Tenon Cutter back, etc., etc. It was just like a massive amount of changes. And the same thing happened, or on Musa, when they got the slow thing on Musa Mewa, for example, the slow's not affecting chase. How long did that last? 1 week? I think that was only a week, maybe 2 weeks at most. So it seems to me when they want to, they can make changes quickly. So if you have, I guess, however long it would take to find out why something is working, not working, good or bad, right? Then it's just like, for the most part, changing numbers.
Personally, I think they deleted that Chase is immune to slow thing after literally the moment they released the patch notes. So like, yeah, delete.
Yeah, maybe.
Can I just say as well that I know we're gonna get to this a little bit later, but I understand the necessity, obviously, to change numbers and things, but I really like to see like actual fun changes, like mechanic changes, such as the Sage Rift Chain. Is it like super OP? Is it going to be like really good? I don't know. I think it's kind of meh. But what it is it's like fun and interesting because it's not just like, hey, we changed the damage on this skill from 737 to 757. Like it's a fun new mechanic that's like kind of interesting, and it is actually going to be interesting to get and see what it does. And I think that was a big part of why the reworks were so successful, is because it wasn't just, let's change a number here, let's change a damage modifier there, let's change a cooldown wherever. It was like, let's try to add a couple new mechanics that make things like fun and interesting and like new, you know?
Yeah.
And
no,
so
yeah.
I do kind of hope that, like, obviously you have to keep changing numbers because that's the biggest way to change balance is changing numbers. But in terms of making things fun and keeping things new and interesting, I think adding like mechanics or changing mechanics
I agree.
is
No,
really
I
interesting and
completely
fun.
agree. I just don't think you could do that like
It's an
every week.
example of that.
No, no, no,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I'm not saying every week, but
Yeah, yeah.
like occasionally.
Yeah,
Like
occasionally.
before the reworks, I feel like we were in a fucking drought for a really long time in terms of like they weren't changing mechanics. It was just numbers. I don't remember them really changing
Yeah. Outside of getting the
mechanics
new
of
skill.
skills until reworks.
Yeah.
I mean, generally speaking, like say for example, obviously not the same game format or anything, but like League's a good example because they always do patch note adjustments all the time. Most of the time, it's usually number related. They either like affect the base stats or touch specific skills to adjust a class. But they do reworks or mechanic changes on things from time to time. So to Reslar's point, like
More so recently though.
yeah, I mean
Like for
that's
example,
definitely more of a
in this
recent thing.
patch, Red Moon or the new Corsair ability.
Yeah.
Like you didn't see
Yeah,
stuff
yeah,
like that before. It was just
But-
like, all right, we gave this super armor. All right, this has more
Yeah.
damage.
It was more
Hmm.
tweaks like that.
Remember,
typical,
it used to even be we increased the AOE size of blank, but then the animation was the same, so you couldn't even tell.
Yeah, you couldn't tell, and you just get CC'd from fucking nothing. But yeah, I mean, those kind of more dramatic changes, I agree they should have some from time to time, but definitely more scarce. Like I don't know, maybe like a 6-month period or something like that. I know that seems long and whatnot, but like you're changing how a class essentially could potentially function in a dramatic way with those, so you got to be careful with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
No,
not
for sure.
saying
People have
every
to get
single
used
week.
to
I'm not
it.
saying every single week they need to add some new
Yeah.
function to fucking like Red Moon or something.
Yeah,
I'm just saying like every once in a while, like every couple months maybe. Or not even
Yeah.
every couple months. Maybe just like one class a month or one class every other month or something like that. Just like add
some
a
sort
little
of
something, a little
adjustment
something, something that kind of
quarterly or something
changes
like
things
that.
up a little bit, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
Make Shakeoff
To-
more like a Diglett in Pokemon, where you go
Make
underground,
Shakeoff's
move, and
iframe
come out.
actually fucking work. How about stat for a goddamn start? Fuck me.
my big thing is like for like what your question was earlier, Frosty, like updates to classes as far as like fixing bugs and whatnot. I think that should be
Well, bugs
if
should
there's
be
any bugs,
constant.
that should
They
be
should
weekly.
be fixed immediately.
That
Yeah.
should be fucking weekly. As far as like adjustments to skills, those need to be evaluated, and sometimes that takes a little bit of time, admittedly. Like I don't see like a couple weeks to a month being unreasonable. The thing is like we go many like sometimes like entire quarters or longer without any sort of like even blue text on what they plan on doing, Now, not lately. Like it's been I mean, how long did we go after they released Drake and they did the reworks before we got like any sort of significant changes? Was it like 3+ months?
For which class?
Like any of them? Like some of the more egregious classes, like all the range damage, Zerker, like you could
wait,
argue some classes still haven't been touched.
with the Succession release or the reworks? You're saying?
Reworks.
Just,
Yeah,
post reworks,
Yeah, post
plus
rework.
Drake.
I mean, more have been touched by now, but not
Yeah.
some of them. Not much.
Yeah, like how long did it take him to like touch fucking Suck Zerker, for example, or like Musa didn't take too long for them to adjust.
Yeah, Musa Melon were quick.
Yeah, they were quick, but then like Suck Zerker was just fucking rampant everywhere, and that class didn't get touched like what? It was like 4 months or something like that. That's a little bit too long.
Yeah, yeah. Bug fix it, dude. I'm looking at this. So Half Moon Slash, during the rework, they decided to change the way the SA worked, and then they changed their mind on that change. And somehow, ever since that day, something that I used constantly, C swapping after Half Moon Slash, no longer works. Going left, but it works going right. So if I go left, which literally was muscle memory forever, to just Half Moon Slash to the left and then C while holding C, and now it forces me to slow swap. Whereas going to the right, like stuff like that, that kind of stuff should be fixed so quick. And the thing is too, is like in the partner Discord, like this stuff has been reported a million times. Do you know how many times Huntler has submitted feedback that the Prime Bolide down smash hasn't worked since the moment it's been added?
And that's what's discouraging because like I used to report stuff all the time. I would go out of my way to make videos and I'd submit the tickets. or pass along to people that I know could get it to the right individuals that we know to be at least what we perceive to be the right individuals, and nothing ever happens. So it's just like I'm basically, for a while I just gave up. I just didn't even bother. I'm just like, well, these bugs are here now to stay. Like, it's frustrating. I know a lot of
Yeah.
classes deal with that.
Or
So
yeah, like Strat and Chat's pointing out, Stratified, twitch.tv/Stratified, good dude, is pointing out the iframe bug that came with the print screen bug fix. That's literally been in the game.
like,
When
what
you're
the fuck
slowed,
is that still doing here?
when you're slowed, iframe super armor skills losing their protection early because you're slowed is just, come on, man.
Yeah.
I've submitted that a million times. Like Strat, I think Strat knows. I think Strat, you've seen it. And every time we have a meeting, I freaking bring it up. I'm like, so with this bug fix that's really important and impacting everyone, are we looking at this, or are we just not doing that? What does it mean? What's happening? Because like, it's just incredibly easy to reproduce. I know Hanara said that he submitted feedback about it and he said that he put together a video and a post and like wrote out how to replicate it 100% of the time super easily. And it's just like, dude, all it does is make people complain about desync more because they think they're desyncing out of their abilities when literally their skills losing protection early. It's crazy. It's just crazy. And that one is so big because that one's just frustrating people constantly. Just constant frustration where it's like, what the hell, man? I was in super armor. What the hell? I was in whatever the hell, forward guard, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I was in Nemesis dive, like the most iframey skill in the whole game, and like somehow I'm CC'd out of the air. It's just crazy. I don't know. Yeah, so hopefully, yeah, bug fixes should be constant. Minor tweaks should be regular, and mechanic changes should be every once in a while. Like, just, that's how it should work. I don't think it's that crazy to think of, especially when your balance impacts your money per hour. And I hate to repeat this again, because I talked about this on my stream a million times, thing we talked about on the podcast. But when I grind for 120 hours on a Kuno to buy something that would have only taken me 70 hours on a striker is fucking bullshit. It's literally just a total waste of my time. That's 50 hours extra of my time that I just will never get back doing the exact same thing someone else gets to do for a way, way, way shorter period of time. It's one thing if it's like, all right, over the course of 100 hours, one person had to grind 95, one person had to grind 102, one person grinded 97. But when one person is grinding 70 and another person is grinding 110 for the exact same thing is just dumb. All right, moving on. Global Labs. So that's the note. PA, I don't know. I actually, the last thing, do you think there's any chance PA takes notice, like maybe not just of the note, but the fact that people were like the discussion, I guess, of it, the conversation of it.
What do you mean specifically? Just like the discussion of like,
yeah,
how they need a balance
like
more often, or
yeah, like maybe they look at it like, oh man, like we have been kind of lackadaisical. Like, is there any chance they're like, maybe okay, I see what's going on, or I don't know, anything. Will anything come of it?
That's a good question. I mean, it might. Sometimes if there's enough voices, they tend to respond, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty much been the trend with them. There's enough outcry about something, big posts, stuff that's like really catching their attention, they'll respond in some form or fashion. That's always been my understanding of how they react.
Most importantly, and this would be my answer, is there enough Korean players that agree with the sentiment?
I mean, if you look at their forums, they're constantly complaining about balance all day, every day. So I think it's I do obviously think that it's easier for them to get feedback from Korean players, but I think that they love to ignore the Korean players just as much as they like to ignore us.
Yeah, I don't subscribe to the fact that the Korean players control our fate anymore like they used to. At least how I used to think they did.
I still it's just stuck in my head forever. Do you guys remember that Heaton interview with the Korean player that said So he said
Yeah.
his question was presented in, and I'm paraphrasing here. He said something along the lines of, a lot of players from NA and EU feel like the devs only listen to KR or only listen to Korean region when it comes to feedback and stuff. Do you guys feel like these other regions get any? It was something along the lines of, these other regions that are taken into consideration. And then his response was literally that the Koreans feel like they don't listen to KR at all, that they only listen to NAEU.
Yeah. Well, the Koreans also have the perception that basically they're always being used as the test server
Yeah,
for everything too. So
that is an interesting, like, I don't know, juxtaposition, I guess, where they're like, man, this is so dumb, we're a test server, and then us, we're like, it's so lame that they just got that and we can't have it. I don't know. Anyway, so let's talk about the labs stuff. Every one of our classes is in here. Just kidding.
For the record, I just want to clarify my statement.
Yeah.
I don't mean that if KR complains about class balance, then PA will jump through hoops to get class balance done. My point is that if NAEU and KR are both on the same page about something, I think they're a lot more likely to listen.
Agreed, yeah.
Because it's the two biggest markets that they have, right?
Potentially.
That's my point.
Yeah.
fucking Christ, I keep sneezing. Sorry.
No, it's all right.
I'm having like a sneeze attack or something. I don't understand what's going on right now.
All right, so in the Global Lab, Shy got a bunch of musical instrument stuff, so they're fixed and the Shies are happy. Let's go down to the balance stuff. Dude, I just feel like every time Shy, like, you never really see Shies complaining majorly about music. Look how many notes are in here for music stuff. And it's just like, this is why I keep telling them, man. Like, they literally look at you guys as a roleplay class. I know you keep saying, don't stop perpetuating that. We're not a roleplay class. But it's like, dude, it's not us perpetuating it. We're just repeating what Pearl Abyss is telling us, all right? All right, so let's start at the top here. This is surprisingly, we got balance changes this week, and they were not really minor for some of the classes. They were actually pretty major. So I want to ask you, Nayashe, help us understand first the succession changes. So they changed Blind Slash. So it no longer consumes stamina, instead costs SP or WP or SP, whatever. What do you guys use? Everyone uses mana. I'm just going to say mana. Everyone uses mana pots now. It costs mana instead. Maewa's Will, when using Maewa's Will skill, when there are 2 red petals, a 1 red petal is obtained. Prime Red Moon, the skill linkage has been improved, can be linked to Whirlwind Cut while using the skill, and Maewa Ascension to Heaven, skill linkage has been improved after acquiring the skill. While using Prime Red Moon, it can be linked with Whirlwind Cut, Decapitation, and Sticky Snowflake. So what do these changes do? Do they matter at all?
They do matter. They are actually really good changes, especially the Whirlwind Cut linkage from Ascension to Heaven, which basically is just Red Moon. Ascension to Heaven is the
right.
It's not a flow. It's like an add-on feature to Red Moon to make it produce the cast speed animation faster. And originally, like currently in live, sorry, still dealing with a sneeze attack. You can't cancel it very well, and it kind of like gets you caught a lot. So using Ascension to Heaven is very risky. It's just really awkward with the timing on when you can cancel it. You have to do it like basically immediately. So this actually opens it up, makes it a lot more flexible and more realistic to use. And then having another cancel such as Whirlwind Cut, which is something I asked for like a year or 2 years ago, that's a godsend. Like that's gonna make a huge impact on Maewa as far as like combat is concerned, because that means skills like Stigma and Sticky Snowflake can be utilized for the things that they're intended for, rather than canceling. Canceling for Red Moon. So Stigma can be used for catches, and Sticky Snowflake can be used for SA trade damage again, or whatever the individual is intending to use them for. So those are really good. The WP change for damn, I'm really dealing with this one right now. Hold on.
Do you want me to give you a
give me just a
second?
moment.
All
Yeah,
right.
just give me a moment. I'm literally sneezing like crazy.
The idea, see, this is the thing that's so crazy about Nayashia. He's saying he's sneezing, but he's actually just brought to tears that Mewa finally got changes. So he is just crying. He's like, I can't believe, guys, this is just, they're good changes.
To keep my composure.
They're just good changes.
Oh shit.
Yeah,
Jesus
congratulations. Do you
Dealing
need
with
to
it.
go blow your nose?
No, I'm okay. I'm
All right.
coming out of it, I think.
Yeah, if his wife sees him, she's going to be reminded that you exist, and she's going to pull you off the computer anyway. You got to be careful.
True. The blind slash change is for the WP change.
Yeah.
Is it's good.
Right.
It doesn't
Small,
solve
but
the
good.
problem.
Right. Small,
Yes,
but good.
it doesn't solve the problem, but it is in the direction that we need it to go. Because ultimately, what happens with Suck Mewa is when they catch someone, finally, because in a meta where a lot of people have super armors and whatnot, it takes a while for them to get caught. When you finally catch someone, you generally don't have much stamina to work with, unless you caught them early in a fight. But generally speaking, it usually takes a while for Suck Mewa to pull off a catch. And then when you finally do, you don't have any fucking stamina to combo with because most of your key like re-CCs such as Carver, Blind Slash, Roundhouse Kick, those have stamina costs associated with them. So having one of them be freed up from that is really nice. They need to do more, but it's in the right direction. So really good change. It's unfortunately the re-CC one, not the like first hard CC that's typically used because of how short of a distance it reaches. So I would prefer that they do that same kind of change to Carver,
Right.
because that's a better one to follow up with. But it's in the right direction. So all these changes for Succession is really good. It's just small potatoes in comparison to what Awakening got. So that's the only downside to it. They are good, and I don't want to take away from that. It's just they need to do more for Suck.
Right.
Suck has been neglected for so long. Okay.
Agreed. Okay.
I dried my tears.
All right.
I'm good to go.
You sure? Do you need to blow your nose before we get in Awakening? Because Awakening's looking long here. This list is pretty
I think
crazy.
I'm okay.
All right, here we go. So I'm just going to run through these, and then you're going to tell me how this only affects your matchup against Striker. All right, here we go.
Yeah, pretty much.
From the top, Full Moon Wall. Effects have been added when using skills. Increase all defense by 20 for 10 seconds. This one, just right off the bat, as a side comment, is really funny because they've moved this buff around from the start of the reworks till now, like 10 times.
Like 3 or 4 different skills have had it now.
And this one literally makes the most sense and should always have just been this. But anyway.
Yes.
Ice Fang. The effect has been removed, so they don't get the DP debuff while using Ice Fang, and they now added effect upon successful hits, reduce movement speed, cast speed, and attack speed by 20% for 10 seconds. Sticky Snowflake got its cooldown reduced from 15 seconds to 10 seconds. Its accuracy changed from 50% to 20%, but it now gives you a 15% accuracy buff for 10 seconds. Mind you, that stacks with the accuracy buff from your E-buff. What is it called? Super Apricot?
General Apricot, yeah.
What a dumb name.
It doesn't make any sense, I know.
Yeah, the slow got removed from Sticky Snowflake, and the effect of successful hit has been removed. The evasion rate debuff has been removed. And then they changed the PvP damage reduction from 42.5% to 30%, effectively buffing the entire ability as well. And then Moonrise now has the evasion debuff, all evasion rate minus 9% on hits. The cooldown's been reduced from 9 seconds to 8 seconds. Flow Cloud Stab cooldown from 9 to 8 seconds. Moonlight Dash cooldown from 9 to 8 seconds. Oppression, all DP debuff effect has changed from minus 20 to minus 30. Frostflower now has 25% crit in PvP. Petal Bloom damage reduction has changed from 59.3% to 50%, which also affects Moonlight Dash's damage. And then Red Moon is now Blue Moon, and it can be used in Awakening and will keep you in Awakening, and has a blue effect, which means you can chain it together with Awakening abilities directly instead of having to cancel out back into Awakening with, I don't know, I guess what would you guys use mostly? sleet
It's
step
a
and
smooth
whatever.
transitioner into anything, so it's a great combo variety type feature, I guess.
Yeah. So overall, what are your feelings on all of these changes as a whole, and then any individual ones stand out to you as being very good? And was anything here surprising to you?
So my response to how are my feelings on this as a whole? Fuck yeah, baby, it's our time. Let's go, Maywa, go, go, go. That's basically how I feel, yeah. But
Yeah. Did you find out that night, or did you wake up to it?
I woke up to 15 fucking DMs from like everybody, and I'm like, what is going on? And then I look, I'm like, barely got my eyes open, and I see a screenshot of translated notes. I'm like, what the fuck is this? I'm like, what the fuck? I kept reading. I'm like, what the fuck? It was ridiculous. I was like, no, they didn't. No,
At
this
the-
has to be. Is it April? Is it
at,
April Fool's?
at the end where you're like, I bet Frosty got Kuno changes too, and you scrolled down?
No, I didn't even scroll.
That's fucked up.
Like, I honestly have not looked at any other class notes. I literally been obsessing over the Mewa notes.
All right, so which of these changes are which of these changes do you like? Which ones are you afraid are too much, if any?
I mean, I like all of them.
I know. You love all
But,
of them. They're all your babies. You love them equally.
They're all my babies. Like, how do I choose one baby over another? You know, like,
Yeah.
like it's just not how we do things in Florida. I mean, all of it's really good. So I guess I'll break this up into two categories.
Okay.
So with the introduction of AOS, we have to consider how patch notes will affect those different formats of the game, because we usually typically do that with like normal open world PvP and large scale, right?
Yeah.
So I'm
typically.
going to break it up into AOS versus just real game combat. So the mass majority of this will impact AOS in a very positive way. Obviously, the DP buff from Full Moon Wall being up, basically perma plus 20 DP all the time. That's huge. Not to say that we don't have it up consistently, because whenever we use Red Moon, we get a 20 DP buff for 20 seconds. So that's a long time. And we do use Red Moon quite often, so it's usually kind of up all the time. But at the start of a fight or when you're running, we tend to use Full Moon Wall, and we might not necessarily use Red Moon until we need it for a defensive or counter attempt.
And
this just
full
helps.
Moon Wall is your awakening Q block, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. Sorry for the viewers that aren't familiar. It is our Q block. So just having more DP all the time kind of helps with the squishiness of Mewa, because we are a notoriously squishy class. So really good change like that. The Ice Fang change is probably one of my more favorite changes. So basically, they turned Ice Fang into Mewa's version of Fiery Crevice, except we get movement speed attached to it as well as a debuff. We've never had a cast speed debuff before on Mewa. Moose has been the only one, as far as the players are concerned, that's had cast speed debuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so for us to have that now, that's going to impact our fight versus Sork, potentially DK, although trying to hit a fucking DK with something like this is probably not going to happen. But Sorks tend to use Grim Reaper, so we could land a quick hit with Ice Fang on them, right? So
Yeah. For the record, just to clarify, it's not quite fiery because you also don't have the KD.
Correct. We don't have the KD, so
Right.
it's not. And the debuffs only apply on the first hit, not the big drop from the second hit. So it's a little bit smaller AoE size. Probably a lot smaller, actually, is the better way to describe it. But you know, that's impactful, because that means the fight versus wizards, you know, other magic caster types, like hell, Valk. Valk's a casting speed type class. That's impactful versus those. We never had that ability before, and on top of that, we never had a slow debuffer that was protected.
Yeah.
Sticky Snowflake was always unprotected, and it was very rare that you would use that to actually debuff your opponent. So now this actually kind of helps out our 1v1 and our AOS and potentially our large scale,
Mm-hmm.
or at least our small scale for sure. But I assume it'll help our large scale as well. So I'm pretty happy about that change. It's probably one of my more favorite changes. The Sticky Snowflake change, really happy with that. Honestly, I felt that skill didn't need all those debuffs in there to begin with because it was always combo oriented, and they did the adjustments based on that feedback. I assume, and now it's more focused on just doing combo damage. It's not something that we're going to sit there and spam anymore because the accuracy bonus it provides means that all of our kit is actually going to be impactful versus evasion targets, which is something that's going to be really nice because most of the time you just see us like versus an evasion target just spam sticky soap. Like how fucking weird and lame is that? So this actually like makes the rest of our kit viable versus evasion without needing to build massive amounts of accuracy in order to compete with it. So I will say, however, to be as objective as possible while also obviously being biased towards a class, the accuracy bonus is, in my opinion, high.
You don't say.
I mean,
You don't
I got to.
say. All right. Well, hey, if you're gonna go way out on a limb and say that that's high, I respect it.
I mean, I always complain about other classes being fucking busted. How disingenuous would it be if I don't fucking say if something on my class is going to be busted?
Yeah. No, fair enough.
So I'm trying to be fair.
15%. Now, if in the case of something like a hash that has 0 accuracy mods, 15% might be like, oh, okay, I could see why they do that. But even hash doesn't get 15%, and they have 0, like nothing has accuracy on their skills. So 15% is pretty high.
It is, and most of Meiwa's Awaken Meiwa's main combo skills like Moonrise, Cloud Stab, Frost Pillar, Tip of the Iceberg, those skills don't really have high accuracy modifiers, so I understand why they incorporated such a high one. But when you combine it with what they did with Moonrise, where they took Moonrise and they gave it a minus 9% evasion debuff
Mm-hmm.
on hit, that's when it kind of starts getting a little over the top. So if it was just the 15% accuracy, I would be like, okay, that makes perfect sense. I'm perfectly like accepting that. I wouldn't consider it OP if it was just that. But when you start combining those two plus add-ons, plus our e-buff that stacks with all this, you could realistically get to 47% hit rate for literally not building for accuracy. And I think that's a little egregious.
It's up there. It's up there. So
But,
do you think though that one you had told me you don't think they're gonna keep the 15%?
I don't think they're going to keep it that high. And if they do, I ain't going to sit there and complain.
I'm sure you're not. I'm sure you're gonna be fine with it.
But I am trying to be as realistic as possible with it because, like I said, I'm trying. Like, if I complain about another class, how fucking hypocritical would it be of me to sit here and say that that shit's okay?
Right.
So I'm trying to be objective here. I think they'll probably nerf it down to 9%. And then for the evasion debuff, they might keep it at 9, or they might keep it at like 5 or 6%. And I think even that is still perfectly fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And it's just so impactful. Like that much accuracy, that's huge. That's
yeah,
massive.
it means you get to start selling accessories and swap back to AP if they keep
you literally just build straight AP. Like those changes. Now, if they do keep them, that means evasion on Meiwa is just stupidly viable at that point, right? Because the biggest problem with evasion on Meiwa is the defensive stats are nice, but the damage output is kind of on the low side, especially if you run into other evasion targets. You don't have the ability to kill them. Now, Musa kind of gets away with that because they have Eradicate and they have high accuracy modifiers, plus they do double KD combos on the regular. So they end up melting anybody. It doesn't matter what they build typically. So this is kind of like the same effect. They're basically giving us the same kind of treatment as giving Musa Eradicate. And that's fine and whatnot. So if that's the direction they want to go, then sure, I'm not going to complain. That means Meiwas can go evasion without feeling guilty that they're not going to be doing any damage. And they can build full AP, and they'll probably be perfectly fine versus the mass majority of the people they run into.
Right.
So that's how I see that. So if that's their reasoning, their answer, they want to make sure that Meiwas can build for evasion because we have a passive for evasion, then fine, makes sense. But yeah, I think it is still a little high. the rest of the changes, like the cooldowns on our main skills, that helps with AOS a lot. Helps with normal open world too and large scale. But like that's gonna be pretty impactful in AOS. Like there's times when I combo one person and then I catch another and I just don't have the cooldowns up yet. Like that might be enough to help.
Hmm.
Even just 1 second, that might be enough to help. Frostflower crit, it just means it's going to be a little bit more consistent with its higher output. Petal Bloom and the sticky snowflake damage changes are pretty impactful overall, and they'll impact AOS quite a bit. So I'm glad to see those because our damage is like we're good. I'm not going to sit here and say our damage is low, but we don't have enough of the other aspects like Fiery Crevice currently on live, which now getting Ice Fang, that might help with the slows and whatnot. So adding in additional damage on Petal Bloom and Sticky Snowflake means that we'll have more kill potential in AOS earlier, rather than needing to fully extend ourselves out and get caught out, which is part of the big problem. When you consider the classes that are doing well in AOS, they don't have to fully extend themselves out usually, or they have like a lot of utility as well as damage, or they have grabs as well as extra utility. You know, there's a combination of things. They're not solely dependent on their team comp. They could do well with or without a good team typically, as long as the players are competent. Right now, I feel like Maywa is really heavily dependent on the comp and stuff like that, because you need to have people that know what they're doing, and you need to have classes that can handle themselves.
Yeah, Bloom in chat, I agree. You got to stop mentioning Fiery Crevice. All right, nothing is Fiery Crevice.
I know.
That is
I was mostly saying the debuffs. I wasn't implying the.
Sorry, Searing
CC
Slam. Searing
Searing Slam
is a class
You know what?
onto itself. Okay.
It's literally its own class within Musa.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about the thing that is going to be the most fun change of all the changes. Red Moon.
It's changed. Blue Moon.
Blue
we don't
Moon.
call it Red Moon. We Blue Moon now.
All right. Blue Moon.
So Blue Moon is beyond the Ice Fang is my next favorite change. I think that's so cool what they did with it. I was dorking around with it all day yesterday in Global Labs. It and the way they designed it, it's so smooth. It just flows with everything so smoothly. The animation looks beautiful. So if you go into full remastered and throw up your graphics, it's gonna look really good. It's a lot of people have complained about like other skills getting like kind of like copied and reused. This is another example of that per se, because they kind of use Moonrise at the start of it and then Red Moon with blue coloration.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't mind that. I think it looks really good. I think they did a really good job. And
well, the fact that they change the animation, even slightly, just to make it so oh hey, by the way, you're staying in Awakening is pretty cool. Especially keeping the ice theme, because then it makes Red Moon kind of unique on Suckmewa as well. I actually like that change a lot.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. So yeah, I mean it's just cool to play with and whatnot, and it'll definitely have some significant impacts in your ability to do new combos. I think it's going to open up some variety for what we can potentially do. So I'm pretty excited for it, man. Like I think it's awesome. You could use any skill after it. It just flows so smoothly. Some skills it flows after very well. Not every skill, but some of them it does. So it just I don't know. It's really nice what they did. I will say this though. This definitely shows an example of like how they're heavily trying to make Awakening players that are playing Awakening stay in Awakening without needing to go to pre-Awakening. This is just another example of that, because you use this now in Awakening and you stay in Awakening, so you don't have to go to a pre-Awakening at all like we used to.
Yeah.
Damn.
That kit's over. Your pre-Awakening kit's done.
We just have Stubburrow in there, and
were there ever times you prefer to stay in pre-Awakening after Red Moon, or not really? Like, is there? Because when I first saw this change, my initial reaction, before I realized how many things it smoothly transitions to, I was like, all right, this is going to be like a 50-50. Half the meta say there's a nerf, half say it's a buff. But I think there's too many positives for this to possibly be a nerf. Was there any reason to go to pre-awaken after this?
So there is an argument that with how the animation works on Blue Moon, it's not going to float right away. It's slightly slower on the CC element of it than using the pre-awaken Red Moon.
Is it?
Because slightly. Because it does a moonrise animation first and then it starts doing the float animation. So it's a little bit slower, but overall,
See,
this
I
is
was
going to
told
be
the float doesn't happen until that part anyway, even on the normal Red Moon version.
Yeah, but for some reason, like when I was, at least from my perception, when I was testing it out, it felt like it was slower.
Maybe
And I had a
it
few
might
other
be
people
because
say the same.
I wonder if it's because of global app. Because I feel like when I
could be
float
global app.
anything on a dummy anyway, it's like literally doesn't happen for so long for some reason on global apps.
Yeah. Could be global apps. That's very true. So
Okay.
take that feedback with a grain of salt.
All right,
I guess.
we'll have to see when it comes to live.
But at least at initial glance, it kind of seems like it's a little sluggish as far as getting the CC out, which is fine because honestly, I'm looking at it as more of a comboing version of Red Moon rather than a counter CC. So if it is going to in fact be a little bit slower on the CC element, I would use pre-awaken Red Moon for counter CC play, probably. To answer your question earlier,
You're never touching it again. Don't lie.
I'm probably never touching it again. We Blue Moon gang.
Do any of these changes? I mean, obviously the cooldowns. Do you think this is going to impact PVE much? These changes, like how do you use sticky in PVE? Do you need accuracy in PVE?
I use pretty much. I use those skills, yeah, but not where cooldowns were a problem, honestly.
Okay. And then oppression.
So I don't see the oppression change will have impact.
Yeah.
That'll have impact on AOS for sure, because like then your entire team can benefit from that. And then PVE it'll impact for sure, especially on like Olens or like more difficult mobs to kill. And then large scale fights, if you hit a group, which is very unlikely, honestly. Most of the time, like oppression is used in PvE, or it's used after you already CC your opponent, or you're trying to use it as a counter CC play. So it's not something that's like, it's not like and this is a piss poor example to compare it to, but it's not like smoke, for example, where it's just SA and I could just apply my debuff. Because the only reason why I mentioned smoke because it has the same similar animation speed and AoE size. So it's not like that. It's something that we apply after we CC our target typically, or we use it to catch our target. So,
but the thing is it's still going to affect the neutral game because when you go to catch your target, if they're in super armor
it will
or they're unprotected,
sometimes hit them.
Yeah, it doesn't. Yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter if they're super armor or not. They still
like
get
it's
the
not
debuff.
Gonna be, that'll be in a 1v1 type situation though, right? It's not going to be something that's used against like an AOS, for example. If I have 3 people on me, it's too risky for me to use oppression right there, probably, because I'm just going to get hit with a CC in between the animation, and that's just going to get me caught and killed. So I'm going to use it in a more safe approach, where if I'm in a 1v1 scenario, which will impact the chip damage they take, yes, I agree. Or in a combo scenario where if their team's on the ground, I'll apply oppression and then DPS, right? So that'll be the kind of situations you could expect to see it used. So yeah, definitely a good change. Not trying to downplay it at all, and just kind of more or less giving some feedback as to the versatility of how it's used.
Yeah, I think it's going to be debuffing people more than you think, personally. Especially because, all right, obviously in the example of 3 people are after you, you're not going to be able to use it. But let's say you have, I don't know, a ranger or a nova on your team, and you have like a Zerker and a warrior trying to focus them down. You could definitely go to the back and apply this, trying to do a CC or peel for your team. And then it's
like
just going to affect
in
everyone. It
catches like that. Yeah.
So
yeah, it's just not something that's going to be 100% up every time I catch people kind of thing. Because
Right.
I will use it for 1v1 catch opportunities, and sometimes based on the situation where I'm comboing, it's too risky for me to use an unprotected skill, so I'll maintain full super armor or frontal guard, you know?
Right.
So that's why I'm suggesting that it's not necessarily up 100% of the time when I'm fighting somebody,
All
or
right. So
it's not applied.
let me
100%
ask you
of
the
time.
more bigger global question here.
Sure.
One, how does this, let's say all of this comes through as is, because for now, that's all we can assume is that this is what's going to happen.
Yeah, because we don't know anything otherwise.
Right.
Gotcha.
So let's say this comes to live. Where does this put Meiwa, let's just say for an easy comparison compared to Musa? Do you think this brings it to Musa level, past Musa level? Is it still below Musa level? Where does this put Meiwa, in your opinion, in terms of power?
Honestly, that's hard to say. Like, I know Blue said not to mention Searing Slam because it's its own fucking class within a class. But like, Ice Fang does operate similarly, but it doesn't CC.
Right.
So, but how impactful are those slows going to be? Like, it's not a large AoE like Searing Slam, where I can apply the slows to a pretty significant area. It's only on the first hit, which is kind of like a little bit wider. It's admittedly it's a wider stab, so to speak. It's not deep though. It doesn't go far. It's just wide how the hitbox is on it. So like for example, you know those 4 training dummies that are in BA?
Yeah.
So if you were to hit from an angle, you hit like in a diamond shape.
Right.
You're hitting the first one, you'll hit the 2 on the side, but you won't hit the one in the back.
Right. Okay.
Searing Slam, however, will hit all that shit and then some, right?
Yeah.
So like that's where like we'll see how it works out. It's hard to say for sure. I think they'll be impactful. I definitely think it'll rise our ranks and Meiwas can actually climb a little bit. I don't think it's going to put us necessarily at the same level as Musa, but that also depends on how much that damage increase from Petal Bloom is and Sticky Snowflake. Like if that roughly like it's a 9% PVE damage change, which is supposedly based on math around 20% damage increase. If that's a massive difference, and when we E-buff and we fucking smack someone and it kills them instead of normally leaving them alive to regenerate HP, we could see a lot more significant increases in Meiwa players performing.
Yeah.
So, because our chip damage is really good when we have E-buff up. It's really good without, but the E-buff kind of puts us really high up there on competitive damage. And we have E-buff, in AOS pretty much almost every match, usually every other match for sure. So that could produce a lot more wins.
You know what? Maybe this is how we should look at balance. And Rez, I'm curious if you agree. How many points in Solare is this going to boost you immediately?
Sorry, I literally just put my headset back on. I was using the bathroom. What's
Oh,
up?
welcome back. I was saying, when we're measuring balance, like these Awakening Meiwa changes, this is going to bump everyone's MMR how much? How many points? 100 points? 200 points? This is my rough estimate is this is a 250 point increase balance patch right here.
I
Like
would
the
suggest
patch
around
as
the
a
same.
whole?
Yeah, the
Or
whole
just the Meiwa
Meiwa
changes?
changes
The
for
Meiwa
the
changes,
Meiwa
yeah.
itself. Yeah.
Okay,
Like let's say
gotcha.
if you're a 1300 Meiwa, can you hit 1550 now with these new damage and these
Easily.
changes? No, I don't know. It's like, yeah, these are pretty crazy.
Like
Meiwa's
For
busted
example-
enough as is, man. It didn't need this.
oh my god, what the
Dude,
fuck? So I maxed out so far at 1707. I'm gonna try to see if I can go higher tonight. But so I hit 1707. I can definitely see this pushing me closer to the 18 to 1900, possibly 1900. I don't know. The problem is like the meta classes are so strong with what they do, and Meiwa does use a lot of forward guards. So like ninjas, for example, that run rampant in the higher tiers of the elo, they're gonna be able to like sneak behind forward guards really easily. Warriors are still a thing. Sorks are still really strong, but we should have a better time versus Sorks now. We should have an okay time versus Mooses. Not a great time, but an okay time compared to now, because Ice Fang can at least counter them during their super armors. And we
Mhm.
can keep them slowed just like they keep us slowed. I definitely see at least a 200 point increase if I were to like look at it that way.
Yeah. That's interesting. You said 1800, 1900. Up
Is that how
from,
we're gonna look at balance changes
Well-
from now on? We're gonna be like, what's the point increase?
I'm just blown away. I said 250. I thought that was being large, but you think it's going to take you all the way from your 1350 to 1900? That's huge. It's a big change.
1580 right now. What are you even on?
I just saw
I
you
had a
yellow
bad-
yesterday.
Series of games because
Uh-huh.
my fucking teammates were just garbage, but we recovered and we're gonna fucking get back up to the 1700s tonight and hopefully farther. I think I got to 1720 23,
That was your
but then I
peak?
immediately lost. That was my peak.
Dude,
But I was
I
like
laughing,
1707,
dude.
1704, 1703, 1706. I like constantly went back and forth. It was fucking annoying.
I was laughing because yesterday you were on a 3-loss streak. This is separate from your 8-loss streak that pulled you out of the whatever, but you were on a 3-loss streak, and in the 4th game you go, see, you were up like 1-0, and you're like, see, now at least like one of my teammates is actually good, and then you ended up losing that one 3-2 as well.
And then we just the whole team just threw. It was just like, oh my god, I spoke too soon.
Poor Nayashi, dude, he's dying. Oh my god.
Yeah.
All right. Let's move on. So Meiwa changes are pretty crazy. You're hyped. I assume most of the Meiwa community is pretty excited, except for the succession side.
I have yet to see negative sides as far as the awakening, but yeah, the Suck Meiwas, the handful that are left are still left disappointed. And
also,
Awakened Meiwas are complaining that, like, you know, they're doing all this and that's all nice, but it's like they're still not addressing the issue. We don't have Sleep Step iframe. That's basically.
That's the thing I was going to say. This is like, now they're pushing to a point where it's like, well, if they're going to make you deal this much damage and shred this hard, now it's like harder to
like
justify an iframe, right?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Then there's that question. But I don't know. Like, we still take a lot of damage. Like, even with the 20 DP being perma, we still take so much damage.
Yeah, for sure. I'm still on the side of you should have at least like that 7-second Sleep Step.
Yeah, like a 7-second iframe is not unreasonable.
But you could, like Strat's saying, now you just build evasion and just go full DP. You could probably drop all the way down to 250 AP and still kill everybody, you know?
I don't know about that far, but yeah.
Oh, no, we know. All right. Also, just for the record, do not let, this is not for anyone out there that runs into Nihilus, do not let him convince you that he tagged Meiwa before these changes, all right?
He did tell me that yesterday.
Yeah, he's got to be lying. There's no way. Nihilus is, do not let him. No. All right, moving on. Archer. Yeah, Strat also tagged Meiwa a couple years ago, and he's going to stick to it. He likes these changes. All right, Archer got some interesting changes as well. Righteous Smite, which is the... I mean,
that's the nuke.
It's the nuke, the slow nuke arrow. Is now going to deal more damage. They reduced the PvP damage reduction from 45% to 34%, so that's going to hit significantly harder. Marked Bloom, the number of hits reduced during PvP has changed from -3 hits to instead only -1 hit, which means that skill is going to do a lot more damage. And then lastly, Luthrigan's Call is now going to be forward guard instead of just during charging. It's going to maintain forward guard after the charging is complete. Rez, you're the only one here who's ever even tried Archer. So your initial reactions to this, and then I'll say how I feel.
I don't know how to. So I like the Luthergans change because that will allow you to hold the Luthergans for a frontal guard. So that gives you a little bit more like options in your play. It's not like a super crazy change, but it's just kind of nice that you can hold that frontal guard. The damage buffs, I feel weird about it because I feel like Archer is not very strong right now, but the one thing that I feel like they don't need is more damage, honestly. Like I feel like their damage is okay.
Yeah.
So I don't know how to feel about that. Like, I think that Archer needs buffs, but I don't know if these are the buffs that they need. I don't know.
I'm actually curious. Wait, so Luthrigan's Call to core gives it forward guard. So what is happening with the core? Or
you can't hold it, I believe, is what that change is referring to.
You can't hold it. The forward guard has been changed from front guard during charging to maintain front guard even after charging is complete.
Yep. So you can hold Luthergans while you're charging it. You can hold it after it's fully charged. You don't have to release it right away. You can continue to hold it for a while, and it drains your stamina, if I remember correctly.
Right.
And so now what they're saying is you can just hold that forward guard, kind of similar to what I think Rangers have an ability that's SA, I think. Where they can just
okay.
kind
So
of like
it's not
sit
on the actual
crouching.
shot. It's just while holding the charging.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Got
correct.
it. Got it. Okay.
Yes.
That makes sense then. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, because I get what you're saying now. So right when the charge bar went up, even if you continued holding, you'd lose the frontal guard.
You would, yeah, exactly. You'd lose the frontal guard, and you were just sitting there unprotected, like just waiting
Got
to
it.
launch the fucking shit. I think that's what it's referring to. I'm pretty confident.
Yeah, I wish they were. That kind of makes sense. Okay, that makes sense because they didn't mention. Normally, if they make it fully protected, they would also just be like, and the core skill changed to something else, but there's no note about that. So I'm assuming what you're saying is right. That actually makes sense.
I think so. And again, like I haven't gone on Global Labs and tested, and also I haven't played Archer in quite a while now, so my information may be outdated, unfortunately. This is what I am assuming they're referring to.
Yeah. Now, marked bloom damage increase, like that skill already does decent damage, so it's going to hit pretty hard. It's only a 7-second cooldown. It's fairly easy to land.
Yeah, again, that's why I'm confused, because like, does Archer need buffs? Like, sure, I don't mind it getting buffs, especially when you compare it to Suck Ranger. It's way, way, way weaker than Suck Ranger in like every way. But like, is damage really the thing that we needed on Archer? I don't think so. I mean, I don't know, maybe, but
Does mobility get like crazy insane after reworks?
Well, here's the thing. I don't know about marked bloom, but I don't mind the righteous smite one. I think is cool because that skill is so slow. I do actually love. I don't know. I like the idea of like this slow thing that you could potentially react to or fairly easily react to if you're paying attention. Being like a legitimately scary nuke. I don't know. Archer damage it's interesting too because I was testing out Archer damage with, I think it was FMJ. I think it was in BA with FMJ and Zaki. I can't remember if Torty came the same day, but I was in there with them and like they were showing me like their combo damage is insane. I don't know how they feel about their neutral game damage, but definitely their combo damage is really, really, really high.
Yeah, for sure. And like their neutral damage is pretty fine as well, but like everyone's a bunch of Suck Rangers in chat that are saying that like Suck Ranger is so much worse than Archer. Apparently, the main thing that Archer needs, which Kerr just pointed out, is their damage needs to not get fucked over by terrain.
Yeah,
like honestly,
sure.
That's the main thing that Archer needs.
Which is weird because
they can't shoot down and they can't shoot up, and it's such a problem.
And they said they were gonna fix it too during the reworks, and then just gave up. They just said, sorry guys, guess we're not getting around to that.
Like, Ranger just gets to stand on top of a rock and get kills spamming fucking Descending Current, and Archer's running for its goddamn life away from fucking warriors and shit, like, trying its best to skate around while also trying to do little damage it can. Like,
Nash, you have a bit of echo, by the way, coming through. Yeah.
Oh, 1 second.
Yeah, so anyway, overall, like, good changes. I don't know, like, I know Zaki's reaction was like, he literally, he DM'd me like or pinged me the next day and was like, dude, why? What's happening? I'm like, I don't know, man. Just enjoy it. I'm not gonna take anything away from damage buffs because I'm just sitting here thinking maybe it means Spin Spree is coming down the pike. That's all I can hope for. I also do want to mention something when people say, so a lot of these damage changes, I'm going to get to the Sage one in a minute, are like, they're not little buffs. It's like 20% damage increases.
It's
like,
big, yeah.
For example, Petal Bloom and the flow to Petal Bloom and Lightning Prison, which we're going to talk about. And everyone's like, but 20% on top of nothing is not that much. And it's like, dude, Spin Spree got a minus 17% damage reduction in PvP, and it changed it from people complaining about it to it feels like it doesn't do anything.
Yeah.
So it's like you gotta feel it in game and see before you just say 20% is nothing. It's actually a lot of damage, or it can be. So I don't know. Just 20% is not a little bit of damage. Just for the record. Yeah,
Am I still getting feedback? Or background noise?
I don't know. Don't talk for a second. We'll see. I don't hear it anymore now. Sounds like it's gone. It wasn't background noise. It was me and Rezlar were echoing through your mic.
Oh, really? That's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's Archer. Couple damage buffs. Luthrigan's Call. You can hold the charge for longer if you want to maintain forward guard, and in exchange for stamina, I suppose. So that's
I
nice.
believe so. Yeah.
Sage. Okay, your echo is back, Nayashi.
What?
Yeah.
Fuck.
We hear ourselves in your in your mic again. Sage. Starting with Succession Sage. Prime Form Shift. The skill linkage has been improved. Improvements have been made so that the movement is smoothly linked when using Rift Chain in the sprint direction while using the skill. That essentially is like I was talking with Divios about it. He was on Global Labs at the time, and you can like move out of Form Shift smoothly into Rift Chain really, really smooth. Like it's super cool the way it goes together now. So if you're in Form Shift and you were planning on doing both the initial skill and the flow, you can bail out a little bit early, or at the end of the flow, if you think someone's going to come up and do something, you can bail out. It transitions pretty nicely. Void Gateways, Prime Void Gateways, the skill activation speed has been increased. Increases the speed at which the skill activates when attacking by linking the link to Rift Chain. Essentially, I think it's only a minor change. It's hard. It was kind of hard to tell. Void Gateway, it's pretty fast on labs for sure, but it's also pretty fast on lives. I don't know if people really notice it that much, but a little bit of speed helps. Ator's Mark, damage increase, 45% PvP reduction, reduced down to 34%. Spatial Collapse, 55%, reduced down to 44%, which also means finishing touch will hit harder. Prime Ator's Energy from 45% down to 34%. And Rift Chain, while using Prime Spatial Collapse, Prime Ator's Mark, the time that can be linked with Prime Rift Chain has been reduced. And then Prime Rift Chain, they changed. So now it says Prime Rift Chain, but it was actually working for me on Absolute as well, not just Prime. But now a fake Sage in Rift Chain shoots out the opposite direction that you move in Rift Chain every time you use Rift Chain. So Rez, you're committed apparently to suck Sage in Arena of Solare.
No, absolutely not.
Yes, you are. Don't lie. Yeah. Well, you play a lot more than a lot of people do. So, what are your feelings on these changes initially?
Well, okay. So obviously, damage buffs are really nice. I believe they also sped up Void Gateways. I didn't hear you mention that, but maybe I just blanked when you said it. Which is very nice because Void Gateway's animation is really long, even if you cancel it with Rift Chain. So I think they sped that up a little bit, which is nice. Increased damage is very nice. The Rift Chain thing is like, again, it goes back to what I was saying earlier, that like, is it super useful? Like, it's fun. It's fun and it's very interesting. I wonder, maybe you can answer this question for me, Frosty, because I don't know. Does it match your movement whenever you use it, or does it just go straight line in the direction that you're going in? Hello, Frosty?
Sorry, I'm back.
Do you happen to know if the Rift Chain illusion goes in a straight line when you cast it, or if it mimics your movement?
It just goes in a straight line, no matter how you move.
Okay. See, it would be really interesting if it mimicked your movement, honestly. But like in the reverse, right?
Yeah.
That would kind of make it a little more convincing as well, because there's not a lot of times, in all honesty, where I just go in a straight line in Rift Chain. I'm usually like circling around the edges of the fight, trying to get like behind frontal guards and stuff. That being said, it's a super interesting change, and I'm excited to see what it does. Overall, is this going to make the class good? Probably not. But it's interesting. So
it's certainly going to make it better in large scale, just because the kill speed, right? If your kill speed's increased, and if things are a little bit safer, just based on the fact that they're faster, it'll be improved in large scale. But it's not going to be like end all be all. But the damage is going to be crazy. I do think with the Rift Chain thing, I see your point about it mimicking your movement. I also think though that people, because they're trying to react quick, right, on the fly, and I think the moment they see the two rift chains, even if you move, it'll either make them hesitate and not use mobility until later, or they'll go the wrong way right off the bat, trying to guess, potentially.
Sure, but let's also address the biggest problem with the rift chain thing. If you see two, and again, like this isn't really going to solve my issue with Suck Sage, which is right now Suck Sage has a hard cap in Arena of Solare. You are not getting much higher than 1500 on Suck Sage, because once you start playing against good players, it's literally just impossible to win, unfortunately. And this change when you're playing against good players is really not gonna do much
I
to like
disagree.
deceive them.
I disagree. I think it'll make them hesitate, especially if you're in Arena Solar and there's other people around and it's harder to track because of chaos.
But you don't. But see, that's the thing is you don't really. You don't need to track them, right? You just need to get lucky one time. Like the Zerker that I'm fighting against, the 1600 Zerker that I'm fighting against, just needs to get the grab correct one time on a 50% chance. It's a coin flip,
Well,
and
yeah.
then I'm dead. I'm useless. It doesn't do me any good.
Yeah, I get that, but I'm saying like, I don't think that means that this isn't a good change, I guess is what I'm saying.
No, and I'm not
obviously
saying
if you just get grabbed, like any of the all the Meiwa changes, same thing. Like if they're grabbed, none of these changes matter either.
Yeah.
Sure. I guess I don't know. I'm just trying to I'm trying to so I ask myself what's the purpose of the rift chain like thing, right? And to me it's to make them go after the clone
or hesitate.
Sure, I guess. I guess if hesitation is all you're after, then sure. I don't know. I just don't think it's going to be as impactful as you think it is. I think it's interesting. I think it's cool. I think it's a good addition in terms of like just an extra mechanic that's kind of like fun and quirky. But I don't think this is like going to make the class really that much better. The damage changes, sure, the damage changes are going to be really nice. But not the rift chain mechanic addition.
Yeah, no, the rift chain thing is definitely more subtle. But yeah, no, the damage, I mean the thing is with the damage is they're not small. These are pretty huge changes. And spatial collapse, while spatial collapse itself is fairly unsafe if you're not careful with it, but the flow people can use from so far away, and that's also getting this damage buff. So that's pretty nice. And then Aetor's energy, just having more protected damage in general is going to be kind of nice. Yeah.
So I swapped my headset mic for my normal mic.
Okay.
So it might be sounding different to you guys.
Yeah, you sound normal now.
Back to old Meiwa.
Gotcha. All right. Just giving you guys a heads up.
This is Red Moon Meiwa.
This is Red Moon Meiwa.
All right. Awakening Sage. By the way, yeah, and Bloom mentioned it in chat, but Shift Q still needs, in my opinion, needs to be cancelable always. You should be able to throw out that CC and then cancel. Yeah, I forget.
Oh, that would be really nice.
The vacuum stiff thing, because that stiff is actually so good, but the fact that you're locked in it for the entire animation, just. All right, Awakening, Lightning Prison damage. The PvP damage reduction rate has been reduced from 50% to 37%. This also affects Flow Interrogate. Flow Judgment, they changed the way the hit damage is distributed, and now the landing hit. Now, I tested this thoroughly because there was a lot of debate on which hit is what hit, etc., etc. The landing hit is now times 7 instead of times 2. So when you land on someone, that explosion landing, when you use Flow Judgment, so you have to press either LMB, Q, you have to press something to go into the flow. If you just press Shift Q and nothing else, you're going to get the normal Divine Executioner damage. But if you press any button to swap over to Flow Judgment, the landing hit is now 7 hits. So effectively, the damage is a little bit more than doubled on the landing. And then Spear Bolt now can link you can get the instant cast version of Spear Bolt after Chain Lightning or Lightning Surge. Now, obviously, a lot of sages want stamina changes. These are not stamina changes, but Lightning Prison being
Did I cut out?
threatening.
Did he cut out?
Can you guys hear me?
Uh-oh. Who cut out?
No, he's fine.
Okay.
me.
Nash, you there?
Oh,
I'm here. Oh, we lost Rezar.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm the one who cut out, aren't I?
yeah. Res cut out. All right. So, Nice, could you just type to him to let us know when he's back?
Yeah.
I'm just gonna continue.
hell?
All right. So the Lightning Prison damage change is important though because, well, one, obviously just kill securing, especially with your team, like in Solare or Node War or whatever. But the idea that like putting on damage pressure and players not being able to stand in something changes its impact on any ability. It's kind of like when I mean just anything. Basically, if I can't stand in your damage dealing ability when you're in SA, that means either A, I have to fully commit to going all the way to you, or B, just get out and avoid the damage entirely. So that is really nice. And then also Flow Interrogate is going to be nice. The Flow Judgment change is interesting. This one is more of like, I don't know, I was listening to Zethian talk about it, and he was saying he gets a lot of kills with this skill already because people like trying to run away and you kind of appear on their back, so he gets back attacks pretty often. So it's just going to make it happen more often. I think also, at least in the context of Arena, Solare, or maybe Node War, if someone on your team has someone CC'd from a distance, now your gap close to get to them, if you land on top of them, will actually do significant damage. And then the Spear Bolt change, I don't know if that'll change much for PvP, maybe combos. It uses a ton of stamina going from Lightning Surge to Spear Bolt. And then I guess PvE, Chain Lightning into Spear Bolt. I don't know how much it'll affect PvP. I guess we'll see. But overall, just kind of damage changes, no stamina changes. I don't know if that means they're happy with where the stamina is. Pearl Abyss thinks that the stamina is totally fine or what, but yeah, that's kind of the route they went.
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
We can hear
Okay,
you.
good. Could you guys hear me the whole time?
Yes.
And I just couldn't hear you.
Yes.
So I just started talking over
Yeah.
Frosty.
Yeah, a little bit.
Kind of.
Like,
Not that.
Frosty, you done? I'm like, I'm in the middle of talking, Raz. You're being very rude. All right, so yeah, essentially more damage, no stam changes. Any thoughts?
Seems fine.
I don't know. I still think something should be done about the stamina a little bit, because it's just, at the end of the day, it's literally not fun to... It's not fun to engage, and then shortly after you engage, you're trying to stay alive with no stamina, and you can't use abilities, and, you know, just, I don't know, that situation just feels really, really, really bad. All right, Corsair. Corsair got some interesting changes. All right, Succession first. Both Suck and Awakening got interesting changes. Suck, Whirling Slash is now an iframe at the start, so that is the AD RMB skill, which is kind of like where you slide and then do the wave stiffen hit. So it's not a protected CC. When I read it at first, I was like, holy shit, is this a protected CC now? But it is not a protected CC. But it is iframe now at the start, so you have an on-demand iframe now every 5 seconds, and that goes into super armor, and then it's still unprotected on the hit. Prime Mareka Sea Stroll, which is forward E, that's the ability where they swim around as a mermaid. The total movement distance has been increased, and the way they increased the movement distance, at least from the way it felt to me on Global Labs, is they just sped up the skill dramatically. So now you're in the mermaid for the same duration of time, but you move way faster, so you go a lot further in a straight line. But it feels really fast. Like Mareka Sea Stroll is much, much faster than it is on live, and it feels really fun. They also changed the second hit damage, or redistributed the damage a little bit. So on the initial pop out when you come up, you're going to deal more damage. The damage is doubled on the initial pop out, and then the traveling damage is reduced, and then the last hit is the same. The explosion after the pop out. And then Prime Storming Gale, which is their AP buff on F, now has forward guard. So they kind of have a stationary forward guard skill to get the AP buff up, which is pretty huge. Overflow, the attack speed is slightly faster, and apparently it flows really well with Prime Wipeout. When I was testing on labs, I couldn't really tell the difference, but maybe it's just really, really slow on live server. Maybe it's delayed. But it was pretty smooth after, so I guess it's faster. Those changes are pretty cool. Having an on-demand iframe, C-Stroll being better for both just running away or chasing people down, and the initial gauge doing a little bit more damage is kind of nice. And then that forward guard, I mean, the thing is with the AP buff is you always cast it before you engage, but once you're in a fight, it's very difficult to get that AP buff up when it's unprotected. But now it being forward guard is actually means they're going to have the AP buff up way, way, way more often. That's pretty cool. Awakening, I don't know if this translation is right. I'm hoping it is, because it's hilarious. But they added a new skill to Awakening Corsair called Scalloped Beef.
Yeah, I saw that.
Scalloped beef.
Scalloped beef.
What?
I'm assuming when we get
Scalloped
it on
beef
live,
gang.
it's probably going to be something else. It probably means something different in Korea. But for now, it's called Scalloped Beef. And this skill is essentially... it kind of reminds me of... What's the name of the archer skill? Mountain Breeze? Is that the one? Where they're like iframe at
Mountain
first into
Breeze.
super armor? Yeah, Mountain Breeze. It
Yeah,
reminds me
Mountain Breeze.
very much of Mountain Breeze. So it just kind of... It's an iframe at the start and a super armor at the end. And it's a 9-second cooldown, costs 100 stamina. Basically a disengage tool that you can use by pressing SF. So when you press SF, instead of it going directly into Ocean's Melancholy, which is the pre-awakening, like, forward guard swirling backwards movement skill, it'll do this first, and if you keep holding SF, then it'll do Ocean's Melancholy after, when the skill's on cooldown. So very, very cool skill. Basically elementalization, but good.
I put a picture of this skill in chat.
Oh yeah, did you Google scalloped beef?
I did. Yep,
And
that
you
is what
found a-
Google says the skill is.
And you found a 100 by 100 image of actual scalloped beef?
Hey, shift and scroll in, buddy. All right.
Yeah, dude. It's control and plus, right? Not shift and scroll. You get out of here.
Is it not shift and scroll?
259 by 194. I don't know. I use control plus or minus.
Oh, control scroll. Sorry, control scroll.
It's Apple scroll, all right? Apple key scroll.
You
All
are
right.
not on an Apple computer, sir.
I stream and play video on a Mac. You knew
You
this.
do not.
You knew this forever. I'm running Parallels and have Windows installed. All right, so all right, so that's that's an awesome change. Now they kind of changed, these two changes go hand in hand that are coming up after this. So close quarters, their shift E skill, the DP debuff changed from 15 to 20 for 10 seconds. Pirate's Life for me and Flow Earth Render. So they basically gave up their stationary 3-second super armor ability that gives them the AP buff in exchange for Flow Earth Render, which is the flow after shift Q, but you can use it after a bunch of different skills, now having super armor and having a lower cooldown. So at first I was like, dude, that's like, I don't know if that's a fair trade. That 3-second super armor is kind of nice, but I was trying to recall the way I play, and at least for me, it might be different for other people. Maybe people rely on it more often, but for me, I didn't rely on this super armor that much. The class has a lot of things that you can rotate and buy time with, so I don't think you necessarily need this SA. It feels a little bit like it's a somewhat fair trade-off, but shift Q, the flow to shift Q, Flow Earth Render being super armor is so good, man. It's so good. That skill hits really hard, and it has a little bit of a wind up, so it's not particularly safe, but being able to use it after abilities and be completely protected, and also not just have to use it after shift Q, but maybe after other abilities as well, now that the cooldown is lower, is pretty awesome. So I actually really like this change. I think both these changes combined with the new ability do kind of move it more towards the way Archer plays versus I don't know, I guess the way this class was currently playing, where it's like almost makes it a little bit less melee and more kitey. So I know Corsair kind of is like it moves a bit when it's shooting, but it's not that much. So this kind of adds a lot more mobility in terms of that. Anyway, I like the skill a
still
lot.
for most of their abilities.
Yeah, they stand still for a lot. They move a little bit with like AD, RMB, and Shift Q kind of lifts you into the air, and you can rotate your camera and move around with that. But this definitely makes it a lot more mobile, and it's only a 9-second cooldown for the move back. And Flow Earth Render Beam, I don't know. It makes it more range based than melee, I guess, overall. Core close quarters suppress skill has been improved to activate more smoothly. I don't know why that was only a core thing. Maybe someone else knows what's up with that. And then spare no quarter changes. Improvements have been made so that the water mist effect is activated when using the skill. And the mist effect is sort of like a buff debuff thing. Anyway, I think it's cool. I like these changes for both these classes. And like you were saying about mechanics, it's cool that they're not
They're adding new stuff.
Yeah, they're adding mechanical stuff,
Yeah.
some mechanical stuff. So that's pretty cool. I'm a fan. Do we have any strong opinions on this, Nayashi, or
No, not really. Like,
nothing here pisses you off?
not yet. I guess I need to get it dealt to me firsthand.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Nothing. I don't know. I'm just. I got the huge dopamine effect from the Maywood changes. Like I'm in a good place mentally right now.
Yeah, you're feeling it, huh?
I'm feeling it.
Nothing gonna bring you down?
Nothing gonna bring me down.
I see. Trying to think, where's the mist effect description? I actually forget off the top of my head exactly what the mist does. Is it not in the skill tree? Is it like when you hover over awakening on the class? No, I know what skills have it. I'm saying where's the description? Oh, is the description actually in those abilities like 40? Oh, okay. Move speed plus 20% for self and allies, and then all evasion plus 6% for self and allies. Okay. When hit by the mist. Got it. Okay. Okay, so SL and B now also has that, I guess, which is interesting. Now we'll create the mist effect. All right. Good stuff. Congratulations, Corsair. You did it. You're on the board. They remembered you exist. I know
It's a wonderful thing.
Kerr's been trying to make Awaken Corsair work in Solare, so maybe he'll have a better time. I was watching Hunter play. There's a couple Awaken Corsairs that are like in the 1800s that are pretty good. I haven't been able to run into them myself because I can't get there, but others have. I was watching some. Yeah.
What's the highest rank you've gotten, Frosty?
1655 or something like that.
Nice.
Yeah, Suck Nova, baby. On my Kuno, the highest I got was 1520 on my Awaken Kuno. I'm just bad at Kuno and really, really good at Nova. Really, really just miles better at Nova,
I think the highest I've gotten is, I want to say, like 1 win over 1500. I literally had one match as a red, and then I went back down to yellow where I guess I belong. It was like 15 fucking 23 or some shit like that, and then I lost and went back to yellow, and I haven't made it back to red since.
Feels bad. It'd be like that.
Yeah. What's the most you've lost, like in one sitting? Because I went from I actually
Like
had
most
like just
elo I've lost in one loss.
yeah, I no, not in one loss, in one sit. So like I went from 15. There was one
I see.
weekend where I went from 1509 on my Awakened Kuno and dropped literally all the way down to like 1224 or 1225. I was so sad.
Yeah.
I literally had to I got off the computer, just looked in the mirror and was like, dude, I just looked directly into my own eyes and was like, you're so bad at the game. You're just bad. You're just actually bad at the game.
I think it would have to be just the other night where I was really close to getting back to 1500 and I was really excited and I just went like win loss for a while and it was really frustrating. And then I think I just got I started like rage queuing and I fell from at one point I was literally at 1499. I am not kidding. I was at 1499 at one point and I went all the way down to I think like 1270 something over the course of like an
Yeah.
evening.
I have a problem because I know a lot of people are like, oh, if I lose a couple times, 2 or 3 times in a row, I'll take a break. But the
You just keep
moment,
playing.
dude, I have this weird thing. I don't know why my brain does this or why I do this. I did this in StarCraft as well. But if I go on like a 3 or 4 loss streak, I'm guaranteed going to play like 20 more games after that. I like am just rage
do the
queuing
same
immediately.
thing.
I literally hit the find match button even faster. Like, God damn it, get me into the next game. Damn it, the next game, man.
So true.
I can't win any of these. One more. It's so rough.
fucking true.
So
Oh.
my strategy, I don't know if you've been staying pretty much only on Suck Nova or what, Frosty, but my strategy has basically been the second I think that I had a bad game on a class, I immediately swap to a different class. And so I just keep like rotating between like 4 or 5 classes.
Yeah.
So I'll play a game on like Suck Zerker, and then I'll have a game where I'm like, all right, I performed really poorly there, and so then I'll swap to like Suck Sage, and then I'll do like a game or 2 or however many on Suck Sage, and then I'll have a game where I really shit the bed. Then I'm like, all right, well let's try something else. Then I'll go play Awakened Musa, and I just keep doing that basically.
Yeah, I wish it was class specific. I want to like learn other classes in the Solare at low rank. I want to be part of the problem with all these people.
You want to be a
You
part
know
of
what
the
I mean?
problem?
Yeah, I want to be down there with some of these people that are intentionally making me lose.
You mean the 0 rating guy?
Dude, I saw a guy. I had this guy. This was in like he was red. Okay, I'm not gonna name any names, but I was with a Musa in red rank, so he was like 1500 or something, and we start out. The match countdown begins. This is in the Olun map, and he chases all the way out to the center, walks straight up to the 3, and the first thing he does is Crust Crusher, and then gets CC'd.
Oh my God.
And I'm like,
Oh no.
I dude, I literally am. I'm like, holy fuck! I'm trying so hard
Yep.
not to scream at this person right now. It literally doesn't make sense what you just did. Why would you do that? No moose on
Yeah.
earth would run up and use Crust Crusher immediately. I cannot believe it, man.
It's the worst.
I'm
Dude,
like,
I had to like I was trying so hard to be polite and whatnot to this ninja that literally hard entered like literally 9 times in a row because I got him 3 games in a row. I'm like, dude, you're solo engaging, man. I'm sorry, but you're not Armin or fucking Yellow. Like, please don't do that. You're not gonna be able to pull it out and not get caught because you get caught within 10 seconds and die. Like, what I need you to do is literally just play reactive, and the dude just wouldn't get it.
dude.
I told him, like, dude, I don't know what else to tell you to help you. Like, I don't know what else to tell you, but you're just not performing the way you should be. Like, that's not how you play the class.
I had one game where I had a Lawn on my team where the second she got to 50% HP, she flew away from us and said, I'm healing. And by I'm healing, she didn't mean I'm going to get the orb or anything. She just meant I'm going to sit here and wait for my pots to bring me back close to full, and then I'll come back and help you guys. And
Yeah.
I was trying to explain to her, I'm like, okay, but the natural healing in this is like really low. You're not gonna heal quickly. You're expecting us to 2v3 for at least like 15 seconds. Like 10 to
Well,
15 seconds.
I mean,
Like-
sometimes that's required in situations like in high elo or like mid elo, even. Like, I guess technically what I was when you're like 15, 16, 17 is technically mid elo or whatever. Like, even then, you're in situations like, hold on, you guys need to back off, just run for like 20, 30 seconds. I need to recover. Like, people have to play that way. You
Absolutely.
have to.
But this was not one of those things.
Oh,
This
okay.
is she takes some SA damage because she's a Sucklon, so she flies in, does SA stuff, takes SA damage, and then flies away at like 50-60% and is like, I'm waiting on healing, I'm waiting on cooldowns. Meanwhile, me and this other, I think it was a DK, are like in the middle of it trying our fucking hardest to like get CCs, and we're even getting CCs occasionally, but then because we don't have a third person, we don't have the fucking damage to kill anyone.
Yeah. I have to hold on. I'm getting pots. I'm gonna stream this in Discord so you guys can see it in real time. But I need to address the way my good friend Nola griefed me the other day because it was so tilting, and I trusted him, and I feel like that trust was misplaced, and I regret it. So he goes multiple fights in a row. Okay, multiple fights in a row. He's fighting not with me. He's fighting by himself, and I was like, Nola, you got to get over here. We were like, he either wasn't fighting with me or he wasn't fighting with our Zerker. We had a Zerker on our team, and he's over here just doing his thing. He's basically 1v1ing a Kuno on the side. I ended up dying, and now it's him and the Zerker in a 2v3. The Zerker is full focusing a Suck Nova, which makes the most sense for a Zerker because their grab is really effective against Suck Nova, and they can hold them.
Yeah.
And so his goal is go for the Suck Nova. And I'm like, Nola, the Zerker has Suck Nova and a grab. And Nola's sitting here with the Kuno. Hold on, man. This guy's low. I'm like, Nola, he has the Suck Nova and a grab. He's like, hold on, man. This guy's low. And then he's like, all right, well, he's out of the grab now. So but he needs your help. You need to get over. He's like, hold on. This guy's really low. I was like, Nola, he has the Nova and a grab again. Get over here. And he's like, literally puts his weapon down, walks like this, and then just gets shadow stomped in the back by the Kuno. And I was like, what the fuck was that, man? Was that like a temper tantrum? Was that you be like, fine, I'll fucking come, but I'm not gonna try? Like, what was that, dude? I was like, what is happening right now? Why are you doing? You're supposed to be my friend, and you're grieving me.
Oh shit!
Oh
man,
no.
that's so fucking funny.
I was so tilted. I was like, dude, Nola's actually trying to lose.
Dude, that's like you seen the game last night, right? I was telling you about it. I had a fucking guy in my game that literally griefed around because he was all butthurt because me and the other guy were like, dude, if you had a mic, you could have called out, situations so that we could have won a particular 2v3 scenario because they knocked down two of the opponents so many times, but they were separated.
Mm-hmm.
And the other guy didn't have a mic, but the one guy did, and I had a mic. And all we were fucking saying was like, dude, if you had a fucking mic, we could have like actually capitalized on a lot of these scenarios. I'm like, yeah, it's funny because nowadays people can afford PCs that are like, $2,000, but a mic, woo, that's pushing the budget, guys. Can't fucking communicate. It's like it's either that or they're afraid of their own fucking voice and they can't communicate with people. It's weird. And then the guy's like, you're flaming me, so I'm just gonna sit and fucking spawn. And it like literally didn't help us. It was like so stupid. I'm like, wow.
Look,
The emotional
I don't,
fucking IQ of that is like crazy.
I don't mind as much not having people not having a mic. I just, for me, I find it odd to not. I don't know. Like I get there's so much debate about this. I've seen a lot of conversation about the whole using a mic or being in the comms because there's a lot of people like, dude, I'm not going in there to get flamed by people. Like it's just like uncomfortable for a lot of people. But I do think if you're at a higher elo, it's at least nice. You don't have to talk. Honestly, I don't really care if anyone talks. Just be in there.
But it does help though.
Yeah, just
when you're
be
able
in
to
there.
call out, hey, I'm V'd. You guys need to play safe for like 20 seconds or whatever. Hey, I got a CC here. Follow up on it. You know how impactful that is in a 3v3
Also,
scenario? Like there's no words to describe how fucking impactful that is. It can literally just win you the match. Just some simple fucking communication.
Way harder in text than they
Way
do in
harder.
voice.
Oh, way harder in
That's
text.
the thing.
People are less likely to flame you like in a fucking really aggressive way over voice. They're usually going to try to be helpful, especially if they know you're trying to communicate.
Dude, I also find the people that are like typing shit, like shit talking, are always the people that don't use a mic. It's always like, I'm not going to go in voice, and I'm just going to also type a bunch of shit talk constantly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Dude,
it's also the hilarity of like the people who don't join voice or like, why weren't you guys there when I got a CC? It's like, we didn't know you had a CC. If only there was some way for you to communicate with us. Like,
I know, fucking weird concepts, right?
Dude, I definitely turned into a whiny brat after a while too. So I could get like, dude, there's times where when especially if I'm dead, and we're in like, let's say it's one of those ones where I'll die and then someone on the other team dies at the same time. So now I'm kind of just stuck watching this 2v2.
Yeah.
And I'll be like, hey, you're low health. You're 40% health. Get out and get 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 health. Why would you stay?
Yeah. Yep.
Why are you in there against 2 Drax with 40% health? It doesn't make any sense.
Yup. But then you go to find out, oh, they're not even listening because they're not in comms at all, and it's just like,
yeah, you have a is this thing on moment where you check the voice comms to see who's in there with you, and you see you're the only one. You're like, that
would explain it. Yeah.
Dude,
that shit just irks the fuck out of me.
I was in one where this guy wasn't talking the whole time, but I could hear his keyboard the whole time. And I was like, it was funny because Nakani in my chat was like, kind of awkward that you hear this guy's keyboard noises so much, but he's not saying anything. And I was just like, wouldn't it be funny if he typed and I could hear him type? He types out, sorry guys, no mic. Yeah, that's it. The mic thing is pretty funny.
I once had a guy on my team. I love the open mic voices. It's honestly comical. I had one guy on my team who was having an entire conversation with another friend in the background about like SCPs or some shit. Like he was having this whole conversation the whole time. He never said a word of like call outs or anything like that. He literally was just talking about fucking SCPs the whole time in the game. It's fucking killing me.
Yeah. And I've noticed a lot of people do also play with their computers on the sidewalk near a busy street. A lot of people. It actually blows my mind how often I hear cars, just really loud, clear cars driving by. I'm like, oh my god, what's going on, dude? Anyway, I don't know. AOS is super fun. By the way, they made some changes to matchmaking, some controversial changes this week where they sort of widened the range in which you can find a match. And then this is to help, especially at higher elos, players that are stuck in queues for extraordinarily long times. They might have widened it too much. People are getting kind of crazy different ranges of people with them now. I mean, Divios had one where it's like clear, like he's literally like rank 1 or whatever, and he's got reds on the other team. And it's like, okay, that's a gap.
Yeah, you could say that.
Yeah, I don't know. I also think like those situations, I make the argument that those situations they'd be bearable if they dramatically change how many points you win or lose. Like if the enemy team has Divios, here wait, let me pull up the leaderboard real quick. If the enemy team has Divios, Armin, and Bow Buddy, right, on one team, just for sake of a extreme example, let's say that's one team. And then the other team is a bunch of people that are in 1600. Then if the 1600 team loses, they should lose like 10 points at the most, maybe 5.
Yeah,
and the winning team should gain like 10. But it's like one of them, Divio, still gained 19 points for 3-0ing a team with like 2 reds on it. And I'm just like, that is insane. Because he even says like, dude, the difference is nuts too, because it's like feels like it's not even competitive.
Yeah.
That's honestly the worst part about Elo Hell, I feel like, is it's like, oh great, there's a red on the enemy team and there's a blue on my team. Fantastic. I love it.
Or the blue one. I love when that fucking happens. Like, I'm glad these are fair.
Yeah, for me it's always like there's always a game where it's like the whole team is reds and then I win, and then the next game after the win when all the teams are reds, I have a blue. And I'm like, that is weird. Why is this possible? Okay.
Yeah, the range of what players can be in your game is pretty. I don't know. It's weird. It's like instead of waiting for an appropriate player to join into the queue, it just throws in whatever sometimes if it has to wait too long.
Yeah.
But that's
who's the other
not
team?
those
Oh,
issues. Those issues are egregious, but they're not near as bad as the double class comp bullshit.
the
I
double
hate that
class
shit.
comp is crazy.
I
It's so
hate
crazy.
that shit so much.
Yeah, I saw Champion Jason was writing up a post talking about it, and essentially it was something like 30% of his games have 2 classes on one team, but none of that class on the other team,
Yeah,
which is just way too high, just absolutely
It's-
unacceptable.
it's not. It's not at all. It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
Like you can't like some classes can actually make do with that. Like some class being doubled up is just like, okay, that's impossible to deal with or whatever. Or that's actually decent comp kind of thing. But there's a lot of classes where double comp is just fucking useless.
dude, I was dying laughing when I think I was streaming it when it happened, but Bear was streaming a match. He happened to have 3 Sorks.
Oh,
And
no.
one of the Sorks in like the 3rd round goes, "Anybody got BSR?" And Bear was like, "This man asking for BSR when all 3 of us are Sorks? Are you kidding me?"
That's
So-
actually pretty fucking funny.
He just typed it like, "Yo, give me your BSR." Some people just want that extra damage, you know?
Well, I mean, yeah, BSRs having even just one 100 can sometimes just win a match.
Yeah. Hold on. So, real quick, because I actually do got to head out. And Rez, is it all right if we skip comments, or we could even just re-record
we
them
can
at
skip.
another
We can
time
skip.
this weekend? Okay.
That's fine. We can skip.
But I want to mention they also removed the vacuum, but left the wind buff. And I was kind of curious about this. And actually, I think a lot of people don't realize the rules. But essentially, the flame and the DP buff, I think the HP as well, don't spawn in round 4 and 5. Only the wind buff spawns.
Yeah.
And it used to be with the vacuum, but now there's no vacuum, although for some reason it looks like there's a vacuum there.
It does look
Still-
like it, so I always avoid middle anyway.
Yeah.
It's the worst.
Have you guys... I love that they removed the vacuum, but this was my theory, and this is me channeling my inner Reslar to the max with this theory on the vacuum change, is that they didn't remove the vacuum because of feedback. They only removed the vacuum because they can't figure out how to not get it to suck you under the ground.
No, that's the only reason.
Yeah, because look,
I can see it.
the reason I say that is because so many people hate the spheres that are dealing damage, and they left those. So if they're doing it based on feedback, then it would have made sense for them to be like, look, we're gonna leave the block break thing because not that many people have complained about it, and we still wanted some cool effects in there because we're just so proud of our work. But we understand you guys hate the damage in the vacuum, so we're removing those. Instead, it's just they only removed the vacuum, which makes me think it's not feedback based. It's just because they can't fix the bug, similar to them removing Arihaza entirely.
Yeah,
Yeah, when are we getting that back, by the way?
I don't know.
when they fix it, I guess.
It's
We ain't getting that shit ever. They're gonna have to redo it.
they're reworking it. They're reworking it with Serendia and Balanos. I honestly do hope we get Arihaza back and just remove the wind buff entirely, because
Yeah,
that
If
map
what I
is
hope
if they
fun.
remove the wind buff, that's actually a really good map.
Yeah, once they
I
change
like
the
that map.
spawns, the way they changed the spawns too is a lot nicer. But if they fix the crashing and remove the wind buff, I would love for them to have that map back, because I don't know. And
It's a
again, like
good
the
change of
spheres,
scenery.
dude, the spheres got to go. Like there are times where it's just red explosion, like back to back.
Oh my god, I've seen a teammate of mine. I was already dead. I've seen a teammate of mine, 80% HP. He's running from 2 players. Literally drops down to 30% HP.
Yeah.
Just trying to like run through him and run for his life because there's literally no way he could have stayed in that situation and not gotten grabbed and killed.
Yeah, I'm gonna do a quick PSA, by the way, on the wind buff, because I notice a lot of people make this mistake. All right, so, or not the wind buff, the AoE damage buff. So let's say this is the red. I'm doing this on paint. Let's say this is, oh, maybe I should just do an actual circle. So let's say this is the red circle, and then you see like the inner safe circle, right here. So the damage, the way the actual damage is dealt, is it originates from the center of the safe circle or the edges of that safe circle. So you have to block the damage, no matter where you are, you have to be facing towards the safe part of the circle. So
just like the hash is.
It's just like the hash is Halliday.
thing.
Yeah. So if you're facing any other direction besides towards the circle, you're going to take damage. So if your character, God, I can't draw worth a damn, man.
That's not good.
Here, I'll do this arrow. If your character is facing this way, I'm just going to do this little arrow. You're going to take damage, and I wouldn't be surprised if it's also back attack damage. I have special attacks off, so I don't know. But if you're facing forward and the safe circle is behind you, you're going to receive damage. Yeah, it's basically a donut. You have to be facing towards the safe part of the circle when you're blocking in order to not receive damage. If you're S blocking and the safe part of the circle is behind you, you're going to take damage, period. I'm being told it is back attack. So you get extra fucked. Yeah, because I saw Bear, like, he was in the red circle, and he was like, what the fuck, man? Like, I was blocking. It's like, yeah, you gotta actually face towards the safe part of the circle, otherwise you just take damage. By the way, it just needs to be removed. Please. Just remove the damage thing, man. Just remove it entirely. Alright, I gotta head out. I gotta go.
Alright, man.
That's all of our things.
Alrighty.
Sorry for the comments. Not we'll do them either later this weekend. I talked to you, Rez. We could probably just do a quick comment section if we have time this weekend. Otherwise, we'll just do it next week during the show.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's all. You want to close this
Yeah,
out?
thanks everybody for watching. Check out the links for the Twitch in the description. Sorry for the comments. We'll see if we can get to them later. If not, we'll do them next week. So yeah.
Did you think our
Everybody
patrons?
take it easy. Yeah, at the beginning.
Okay. Sure.
Asking me if I think. Yes, I'm sure.
All right. Thank you, patrons. Appreciate y'all. All right, guys, take it easy.
Take it easy.
Later.